he will send you an email, so it's good. So before I introduce my dear friend, Rabbi Yonatan Halevy, who's from San Diego, studied in Eretz Israel and in America as well, many different yeshivot. I found him last year, and we are very close friends. I think he went for a Shabbat to Pesach. He was, yeah. He made such an impression they don't want him back.
Depends who you ask.
So just wanted to let you know he's a very unique, dynamic speaker. He really not only entertains, his presence he has a unique way of transferring knowledge of Sephardic Chachamim, as well as modern day poskim, to really tell you what the halacha is according to Shulchan Aruch, and how from those days till today, how kashrut has gone a bit crazy, if anything, and we need to set the record straight, kind of. And I know it's a bit difficult because we live in an Ashkenazi world, and they run everything. They run the kashrut, they run everything else. But Sephardim have a different perspective in everything, in their lifestyle, in their perspective in life, and it is worth listening, and maybe not rearranging, but living at peace with ourselves, because we see the majority of the community around, and they think that we are not doing the right thing, and it's not true. So just as a word of introduction, and we look forward to seeing many times here, and Bezrat Hashem looking forward to spend the Shabbaton together. So without any further ado, I would love to call on Rabbi Yonatan Halevy to address us on Pesach, on the issues of Pesach, that everybody really is always very interested. And thank you for coming. It's wonderful to see you all.
Erev Tov. We're talking about different perspective. Truth is, when you put things in perspective, they always seem a little bit different. They tell a story about a man who was speeding down the highway, and he got pulled over by the police. And the police officer comes over to the window and says, "Sir, license and registration, please." He says, "I would love to give you my license and registration, sir, but I can't do that." He says, "Excuse me? What do you mean you can't do that?" He said, "I'll tell you, I have my license and registration are in the glove compartment, and I just can't open it for you." He says, "Why not?" He said, "Because inside of the glove compartment I have a gun." He said, "Sir, are you licensed to carry a weapon?" He said, "No, that's exactly why I don't want to open the glove compartment for you." He said, "Why on earth are you driving around a car, speeding down the highway with a gun in your glove compartment?" He says, "Well, because I just shot my wife, and her body's in the back of the car, and I was trying to get away from you." And he hears this, backs away from the car, calls up for backup. The whole sheriff's department comes out, surrounds the car, guns are aimed at the driver. The chief of police comes over to the car, and he says, "Sir, license and registration, please." So he pops open the glove compartment, hands the chief of police his license and registration. He looks inside. There's no gun. He says, "Sir, there's no gun in there." He says, "Yeah." He says, "Pop your trunk." Goes to the back of the car. He opens it up. It's clean. A few things he needs to return to the store, but aside from that, the back of the car is clean. Comes over to the window and says, "Sir, something I don't understand here. The officer that pulled you over called me up and he said that you had an unlicensed gun in your glove compartment and then a dead body in the back of your car." He said, "Tell me that liar also told you I was speeding on the highway." When you look at things in the proper perspective, they change. Not because anything actually changed, but because you know how to appreciate that which is what you're looking at. I just want to say, and I'm not forcing anyone to do anything they're not comfortable with, but if you would like, I would very much appreciate if everyone who's around would just come to the middle of this room so that I can look in one direction and not go home with my neck. If you want to come sit up front, that way the people who come late can sit in the back. That's also great. I don't bite, and this isn't SeaWorld, so the first few rows are not splash zones. Our rabbis tell us, Ezu Chacham, who is a wise man? Haroeh et hanolad, he who sees the future. And I believe that this sentence should be plastered on the wall of every synagogue and every Jewish institution in the world, of leaders who look into the future. And, we were sitting here, Rabbi Moshe and I and another Talmid Chacham were sitting here earlier, and we were talking about, there's a custom in Sephardic tradition that when you give tzedakah, you give 2 coins, and then a 3rd coin. Like the Kabbalah say, it's a bracha meshuleshet, it's a 3-fold blessing. But one of the rabbis who was here said he doesn't tell his community to do that because everybody gives $1 for tzedakah. Now you tell them to give 3 coins, they're going to give 75 cents. And it's much better to tell a person, give more tzedakah, forget the Kabbalah, put it on the side. And this is what our rabbis say, Ezu Chacham, who is wise, Haroeh et hanolad, he knows the consequences of that which he teaches. They tell the story of one of the Chachamim, that on the eve of Pesach, a lady who was a widow came to him and asked him, am I able to fulfill the obligation of the 4 cups of wine with milk? Can I use milk for the seder? And he asked her, why is it that you would possibly use milk for a seder that requires wine? She told him with tears that she can't afford to buy wine. So he goes to the back of his house and he takes out a lot of money. And he brings the money to the lady, hands it to her, and says, please, go and buy yourself some wine for the seder. His wife, who was watching how much money he took out, said, I don't understand. Enough money to buy wine? That's enough money to buy a whole case of wine and a few chickens and eggs and everything else. This is my wife, by the way. She's the only reason I'm here. She's the only reason I do everything that I do.
No, I think tonight
she never asked me why I give away so much money. We don't have that much to give away anyways in the first place. And he says, listen, if a lady comes to ask me, can I do a seder on milk? A chacham realizes that she probably also can't afford any meat or chicken at her seder, because if you could afford chicken or meat, you wouldn't be drinking milk at the seder. So I gave her more money than just for a glass of wine because I clearly understood that she needs food and everything else. Ezu chacham, who is wise? Haroeh et hanolad, he who sees what will be in the future. I'm very honored to be here tonight in the Beit Knesset of Rabbi Moshe Benzaquen, who, if I had to say, Ezu Chacham, who is wise, who sees the future, it's Rabbi Moshe. The Torah that he teaches, Peh Mefik Margaliot, it's a Torah that gives out pearls of wisdom, a person who looks into the future of Am Yisrael and says, this is what Am Yisrael needs to hear for the future. And when we were acquainted with each other, it was an instant shidduch, a match made in heaven, of people who are like-minded and sit together. Rabbi Yonatan is also here. Of people who share a vision for Am Yisrael that is beautiful, that is good, that is positive, that will make Jews want to stay Jewish and be very proud of being Jewish. And I'm very honored to be here, and I just want to thank you very much. We open with the honor of the host. And that being said, I think that it really is important to know that when it comes to Sephardim and Ashkenazim, and hear everything you're going to hear from me tonight, Sephardim do this, Ashkenazim do that, there are people who are not familiar with how I teach, and sometimes they might get offended. Why are you being divisive? Why split Am Yisrael? I'll tell you the truth, there's 2 ways to do this. I could either give you a class tonight on all of the laws of Pesach, and forget that any Ashkenazi rabbi ever lived, and just give a class on the laws of Pesach. That's what they do everywhere else. They give you laws of Pesach according to my rabbi, and I won't tell you about your rabbi. I always viewed that style of teaching to be not just one-sided, but it ignores an entire other segment of Am Yisrael that exists, that is real, that we live with, that we eat with, that we pray with, that our kids go to school with, and therefore, in my opinion, is forbidden ever to teach halachot and not to mention both sides of the story. Yes, I'm a Sephardic rabbi. Yes, I am biased towards Sephardic law. Yes, oftentimes I will tell you, let's be Sephardim and follow Sephardic law. And that's precisely what I will do tonight. But if you hear me say Ashkenazim do this and we do that, it's not, God forbid, to separate the Jewish people, but to the opposite. There are many people, like my children, who are half Sephardic and half Ashkenazi. And I'm sure that when my child grows up, he'll be very happy to know that I didn't just teach him the Torah of his grandparents on one side, But I let him know that his family has a rich tradition also on the other side, on the Ashkenazi side. And even though in my house and in my seder we may do things one way, but it doesn't mean that in his life he can enrich it with the experience of the Chachamim of Ashkenaz and the sages of Ashkenaz. And it's for that reason that I will constantly mention both Sephardim and Ashkenazim in order to show the world there are two opinions and there are two worlds, and just because we're different doesn't make us separate people. We can be united without conforming, and that is precisely the way that we look at halakha. So talking about Sephardic Chachamim, how does this work? So let me tell you, before you talk about Pesach, you have to think about the story of Pesach. They tell a story about a boy who goes to yeshiva in the morning. He goes to Sunday school, Sunday mornings. His parents can't afford to send him to yeshiva. So they send him to the local synagogue, has a Sunday school, little Moshe. He goes every Sunday, comes back after many months of being in Sunday school, and his mother says, "No, Moshe, what are they teaching you in the Sunday school? I pay so much money. What are you learning over there?" He says, "Now we're learning about the exodus of Egypt, the Jews leaving Egypt." "Oh, that's incredible." At least that story she knows. So can you tell me, what's the story of the Jews leaving Egypt? He says, "You know, Mom, there were these two generals, Moses and Aaron, and they were the Ramatkal, and they were the chief of staff of the Israeli military. And we were stuck in a place called Egypt. There was a secret operation called Exodus, and we had to make it to the land of Israel. So we make it to the sea. Moshe rolls out a pontoon bridge across the sea, and Aaron rolls the tanks right over them. We make it to the other side, and we threw some grenades backwards, blew up the Egyptian army, and Baruch Hashem, we made it to the land of Israel, and that's why we celebrate the holiday of Passover." She's mortified. She said, "That's what they tell you at school?" He said, "No, Mom, they didn't teach me that at school. But if I only told you the things they told me at school, you would never believe me." The holiday of Pesach brings with it a lot of questions. Plagues, seas, Moshe, Paro, all kinds of stories. And I'm not here tonight to discuss the Divrei Torah or the Haggadah or those things that are very crucial to the story of Pesach. But what I can tell you is that the story of Pesach is not divorced from the laws of Pesach. The rabbis tell us that everything we do at the Seder on the night of Pesach is meant to bring out inside of you a spirit of freedom, a spirit of liberty, a spirit of feeling like a king. We lean at the table, we put out nice china and plates and all kinds of things on the table that we wouldn't do. We serve food that we don't eat the whole year. It's meant to be a festive occasion. And if that's the way the Chachamim wanted us to be, you can't imagine that they would tell you, be liberated, be free, be royal, and then live as if you are under oppression of the Chachamim, as you can't eat this, and you can't do that, and you can't do this, and you can't do that, and make you a list of 1,000 things, that by the time Pesach comes, you just hate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Someone sent me a picture. How much wine do you have to drink on Purim? Enough to forget that Pesach is 4 weeks away from now. And where that resonates in people, that makes me very sad. Because that means that there's a whole world of people who misunderstood the point of the holiday of Pesach. I tell my wife every year, she doesn't listen to me, that's why she's my wife, because she doesn't listen to me. But I tell the ladies in my Bet Knesset, and some of them do listen, Baruch Hashem, that you work so hard. You come to Pesach, and it's the cleaning, and it's the cooking, and it's everything that you're doing. And of course, your husband's helping for whatever he can do. You send him to the store, it takes him 3 hours to get something, he comes back. Everybody's working for Pesach. Comes the night of the Seder, you're sitting at your table falling asleep. You're so busy making things in the kitchen for the guests that don't pay you to come to your house. You work like a slave, mamash like an eved, for people that maybe don't even appreciate how much you work for this night. They come, they eat, they leave, they don't even bother cleaning after themselves. And I ask myself every single year, why do you do this? Why do you live a holiday where by the time you come to the Seder, you're so exhausted, and you're so dead, and you're so sick of these halachot, you don't even have the luxury to feel like a free person, because you're not. And when our Chachamim, Chachamei Sfarad, look at the laws of Pesach, their goal is always to ensure that you observe this holiday 100%, while not ending up that person who comes to the Seder exhausted. And that's the point of everything I'm sharing tonight, is to reimagine the laws of Pesach within the context of a story of liberation, of freedom. And anyone who teaches the Hilchot Pesach otherwise, it could be malicious, it could be they don't know, but what I can tell you for sure is it's incorrect. Because that's not in the spirit of the sages who created this holiday, who gave us the rules of this holiday. And so let me begin. We're talking a little about the Sephardim, and about the history of the Sephardim, and no one has to agree with what I say. But the Chachamim of Sfarad, we have two great sages. The first is the Rambam, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimonides. And he gave us a wealth of information, but especially his Mishneh Torah, his code of Jewish law, which pretty much became a unanimous book for the entire Sephardic world. In this book, he set forth to explain Judaism clearly, without confusing people with too many sources and arguments and quotations. Following him came a man, and unfortunately I live in a generation today where some Sephardim have become so enchanted with the Rambam that they forget, and they became disenchanted with the person who really is the one who gave us the Rambam on a silver platter. And that is Maran Rabbi Yosef Karo, who wrote a Shulchan Aruch. To the extent of how much the Shulchan Aruch is binding on every community, I didn't come to stick my head inside of that today. I wrote a chapter about it in my book if you want. This is a free advertisement. And those books over there in the back, you're welcome to talk to Angel after the class if you'd like to walk away with a copy of them on the laws of Kashrut and Pesach. Maran Rabbi Yosef Karo wrote a book of halakha that united the Jewish people under one umbrella, under one book. Any synagogue you go, any yeshiva you go, they have a Shulchan Aruch. And he took 2 Sephardic opinions and 1 Ashkenazi opinion and joined them together, and every time he had to rule on a halachic question, he would weigh, it was a vote, Rambam and the Rif and the Rosh, and came out with a halachic conclusion. There was a man sitting in Poland. While Rabbi Yosef Karo was busy writing his book in Sfarad, there was a man, Rabbi Moshe Benzaquen, who was an Ashkenazi rabbi. And he was writing also a code of Jewish law. And a few months before he prints his work, it took him 10 years to write it in handwriting, not Microsoft Word, not copy and paste, handwriting. He finds out that some Sephardic guy beat him to the printing press and printed a Shulchan Aruch first. What would you do today if someone printed a book 3 months before you printed yours?
Sue him.
You sue him, you take him to court, or at the very least, you'd publish your own book. Why do I need it? Who cares about his book? Mine's better. Rabbi Moshe Benzaquen takes this book and he buries it. He says, I'm not willing to be the person who will create a book that Sephardim follow Rabbi Yosef Karo, and Ashkenazim follow the Ramah, and we have 2 different books, and Am Yisrael will be Am Mefozar Umforad Ben Hamim, like Haman says, will be a nation that is split up among the world into different subcategories. Rather, he says that this is the Shulchan Aruch, a table of halakha, a set table. I'll be the one to put a tablecloth on it. And he begins the tedious work of taking his old manuscript and applying notes to every halakha that Rabbi Yosef Karo said. He writes in his letters, in the 48th letter, if I'm not mistaken, the Ramah says, "V'kol hacholek alav," anyone who argues with Rabbi Yosef Karo, kecholek al hashchina, is like arguing with the divine itself. That's how much respect he had for Rabbi Yosef Karo. And I'll tell you that grateful to him, and thanks to him, in every community you go, you should go to, we have a Shulchan Aruch with the laws of the Sephardim and the laws of the Ashkenazim in the same place. And whereas when I say a halakha, I can't tell you everything that all the Sephardim do in all the communities. Sephardim are Syrians and Iraqis and Iranians, and you have Moroccans and Lebanese and Tunisians and Turkish and all Bukharians. I don't know every halakha for every group. Egyptians, I would never forget the Egyptians. You have the Ashkenazim also, the Russian, Polish, Hungarian, Lithuanian, Hasidim, Mitnagdim. You can't ever say a halakha that everybody will agree on. But tonight we're going to try. And the spirit of these halachot is they follow Rabbi Yosef Karo in his Shulchan Aruch. Let me just start with a question. Is more always better? When you do more, when you're stricter, is that always better? No. Explain.
Brain surgery.
Brain surgery. Okay, let's explain. There's a problem with the brain and you have to cut it out.
I'm going to be machmir and take more.
Just to be safe.
Just to be safe.
What happens to that brain patient?
It's a problem. It's a problem.
Mamash, a little bit could destroy the entire world. When it comes to stringencies, people think that, hey, why not? I saw Rabbi Buddies was once asked a question about the laws of Pesach. I never heard of this chumrah, I never heard of this stringency, but I really like it because I got so old, so bored of the old ones. I'm glad they keep making up new ones as they go along. There are some things that people invented in the laws of Pesach, you don't even know where they come from. And they think, why not? What's the big deal? What's the big deal if I cover my countertops for Pesach? Covering countertops for Pesach? Why would you cover a countertop for Pesach? Give me a scenario. Let's say this is my countertop over here. Yeah, I have now juice and water. Imagine this is chametz over here, okay? This is my chametz. It spills on the countertop. Who eats off of this countertop? Anybody in your house eat on the countertop?
Yeah.
The ants eat on the countertop. You're right. Okay, maybe the ants are not Jewish too. Who eats off the countertop? If you you ever took a steak out of the oven and plop it down on your countertop and start cutting it off the countertop? Who does that? A countertop in halakha has the same status as your floor. You don't have to make your floor kosher. I'm sure someone today is going to tell me to make your floor. You don't have to make your floor kosher. You also don't have to make your countertop kosher. But people think, why? Because the Shulchan Aruch says that shulchanot, that tables and countertops, you have to make them kosher for Pesach. Why? You think Rabbi Yosef Cairo lived in Los Angeles? You think he used a fork and a knife? What is a table? A table is a plate. In the olden days, you take some rice, you take some meat, you put on the table, and everybody eats together with their hands off of the table. Do you have to make that table kosher for Pesach? Yes, just like your plate, you have to make it kosher for Pesach. But your countertop? Maran would have never thought in his right mind that there were people who would make their countertop kosher for Pesach. And then people do more than that. They make their countertop kosher for Pesach, and then they cover it. Why are you covering it? I'm covering it because I'm afraid maybe there's chametz on the inside of my countertop and I'm going to eat from the countertop, and the whole year I don't eat from my countertop, but now I have to cover it. What do they cover it with? Foil. Aluminum foil. Tell me 100 years ago they had aluminum foil? So someone made up this halakha. Just like when they tell you to make something kosher, you need a blowtorch. We didn't have blowtorches 100 years ago. So how could you make something kosher with a blowtorch if it couldn't be in the halakha that you need a blowtorch to make it kosher? Aluminum foil, the worst part about it is you cut on it. You already know, but the second day of Pesach, your kitchen, it looks like a spaceship. But the second day, it looks like a spaceship with a lot of cracks and holes and tears and rips. It doesn't stick anyways. This whole thing is one big exercise in futility. For what purpose? It's my rabbi, he comes every year. He comes to his house and he sees his wife cover up all the things with aluminum foil. He says, tell me, my dear wife, did you cover it because of the laws of Pesach? Or you covered it because you want your kitchen to be clean? She says, Lemai nafka mina. What difference does it make to you? He said, well, if you covered it for the laws of Pesach and you think that according to the halakha you have to cover your kitchen countertops, then I'm going to rip them off. Because we'll be teaching the whole community something that's not true. But if you did it because it's for cleanliness and, I don't know, you want to show off to your friends how shiny of a countertop you have, all right, that's already your jurisdiction. I'm not going to fight with you. That's up to you. When it comes to Hilchot Pesach, you think that being strict is a good thing. Why not? I'll tell you exactly why not. Why not? Because of what happened to me last year. I had a guest who came to my house. And my house, I'll tell you what it looked like on Pesach, like it looked like a week before Pesach. Toys all over the place. But the countertop was the same countertop we've always had. And this person told their children, you can't eat in this house. It's not kosher. It's not kosher. You're my guest. You need food because you were visiting from out of town and the only place you have to eat is my house. You're going to sit there and starve to death because my kitchen is not kosher, because your grandmother thought, hey, it was a good idea to do something better, and you're already so convinced that this is a Jewish law that now you came all the way to the other side of the world to tell a rabbi that his house isn't kosher. That's an avera. Now you're not going to eat it, so you're not going to be happy in Yom Tov. That's an avera. You lied to your child about another Jew. That's an avera. You ended up treating me like I'm some not Jewish person. That's an avera. And then what did you get out of it? Aluminum foil. You wasted money on aluminum foil and many, many, many avirot. For which purpose? Halakha, our rabbis hated stringencies. Hated them. They were allergic to them. And that is the correct approach to halakha in any situation. When you're strict, you end up losing something somewhere else. And every person who wants to take upon themselves a stringency has to think twice and 3 times and 4 times and 5 times. Is the stringency that I'm taking upon myself, is it any better than what I was doing beforehand, or did I actually downgrade because I thought that I was doing more? Okay, I think I spoke enough about stringencies. I want to let you know there's not a lecture, so if anyone has questions while I'm going through, please just let me know. We're getting to halachot. Sephardim and Ashkenazim on Pesach. What is the difference between Sephardim and Ashkenazim on Pesach? For this, I'm actually going to crack out my book. Somebody whisper, but I can't hear a whisper all the way. Kidneyot. What are Kidneyot? Beans. What about coffee beans?
Legume.
Rice. Sephardic Jews can eat rice. Family? No. What kind of Sephardic are you? Like my mother, they don't eat rice. So, correct? Garbanzos. So if kidneyot are beans and rice, what about coffee beans?
Coffee beans?
Yeah, why can't you have why you can drink coffee on Pesach?
Coffee? You can drink coffee.
I know you can drink coffee, but I'm asking you why you can drink coffee if you can't have garbanzo beans.
Saying that both beans.
I'm going to give you a bottom answer is that nobody knows what in the world kidneyot are. Kidneyot is a custom that many people have to refrain from certain things. Rabbi Moshe Benzaquen in his letters, he goes to Moshe, who is an Ashkenazi rabbi more than I am. He says there's no logical understanding of this halakha, and therefore whatever they didn't eat in Europe, we don't eat. But aside from that, we can't add new things to this category. But I didn't even get to kidneyot yet. Our first difference that pops in everybody's head, kidneyot. But really, I told you there are a lot of Sephardim that didn't eat kidneyot in the first place, or at least not many kidneyot. And it's not the biggest issue between Sephardim and Ashkenazim for Pesach. The first one is something called choser v'neo. Rabbi Moshe was alluding to. Let's say that I'm making my chicken soup for Pesach. Yeah, and in my chicken soup, I'm mixing it around, and my son Elchanan climbs on my shoulder, and he's eating a cookie. It's 3 days before Pesach, so we have still cookies in my house. He's eating his cookie, and some crumbs of the cookie fall into the chicken soup that I was making for the Seder. What's the status of that chicken soup? It's chametz, right? Why is it chametz? Because even mashu, even a little bit of chametz, is not allowed on Pesach. That's the problem. If a pig fell into my chicken soup, it would be okay. Why? Because I have 60 times the amount of soup to the pig, and therefore my chicken soup is kosher. But the chametz, even b'mashu, even a little bit, is that true? No.
It is true. Pesach.
Are you allowed to eat bread tonight? Yeah. So today, chametz is not even there's no such thing as chametz today. What is chametz today? Chametz only exists 8 days out of the year. There is no chametz the rest of the year. And therefore, when chametz falls into your food, as long as the majority of the food is not chametz, it's okay. That's the halakha. And that always was the halakha. And that's the way the chachamim looked at this halakha. Can I do this on purpose? Can I put chametz in my food on purpose? One of my friends went out to Spain to be a rabbi 3 days before Pesach. And he gets there and they tell him he's making a seder for 100 people. 100 people. And the kitchen that they have needs to be used until the day of Pesach to serve chametz to their senior citizens, whatever they had another thing going on there. So he wouldn't have enough time to make his kitchen kosher for Pesach. He has to cook for 100 people before that day. So he calls up the yeshiva in Jerusalem, and our rabbi answers the phone. He says, what should I do? They're going to be making bread in this kitchen until the day before Pesach. I need to cook already 3 days before Pesach. He says, take the chametz pots and pans. Take the chametz utensils. And cook in them. And serve all of that food at the Seder. Don't make the pots kosher. Don't make the pans kosher. Don't make anything kosher. Because before Pesach, chametz is not chametz. And it's all allowed. L'chatchila, you can do this in an ideal level. What happened? Big deal. What? That's why you're here tonight. That's why you're here tonight. Because if this sounds foreign to us, then what I could tell you is just like me when I grew up in San Diego. I knew that I was Sephardic, but one halakha about Sephardim I didn't know. So I had to do teshuvah. I'm still doing teshuvah until today. Every time, shamnu, baganu, I rebelled against my fathers, I rebelled against my mothers, I remember coming home from yeshiva and telling my mother that olive oil that you buy in Costco, you can't use it. My rabbi in yeshiva said you can't use it. And until today, I asked my mom every Yom Kippur, Mechila, I've asked her forgiveness. I was 14 and I was stupid. Today I'm older than that, I'm still stupid. But I'm asking her, Mechila, I'm so sorry that I put you in stress in those years in Pesach. Well, I was taught that kashrut is more important than respecting my parents and their traditions and the fact that they grew up in religious homes, not any less religious than the homes of the rabbis that I went to. And that's why I'm here today. To tell you there's a whole nother approach to Pesach, and I'm wishing to share with you tonight. So the first, choser v'neo, now this little crumbs that fell into my soup. The Ashkenazim hold something very different. They say that on Pesach, there's a blessing we say, Baruch atah Hashem, blessed are you Hashem, mechayeh hametim, he who gives life to those who have died already. The resurrection of the dead. The Ashkenazim believe so much in the 13 principles of the Rambam, they also believe that chametz comes back to life on Pesach. Which means that according to the Rama, what happens is your pot of chicken soup, it's batel. So really it's not chametz. But then you're sitting there at the Seder, imagine in your mind that the chametz pops out of the chicken soup, floats in the air, falls back inside of the chicken soup, and makes it chametz all over again. Because on Pesach, you said correct, on Pesach, and even this is not accurate, but let's pretend this is a halakha. On Pesach, chametz is not nullified in anything. It doesn't make a difference. You should know that's not clear, that halakha, but I'm going to say that is the halakha for tonight. So when food falls into something on Pesach, chametz falls on it makes the whole thing not kosher. It doesn't make a difference how many times. And so the Ashkenazim say, listen, if we know that there was something that had chametz inside of it before Pesach, we can't use it on Pesach. Sephardim, can they use this on Pesach? Can they eat this chicken soup? Yes. Can Ashkenazim eat this chicken soup? No, because they believe in halakha, chozer v'ne'or, the things come back, they reawaken, and they fall back into the soup on Pesach. And that brings us to a second halakha.
Excuse me.
So,
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, please.
So before Pesach, you can use that pot, which was used for regular cooking during the year. Has chametz in it.
Chametz in it,
Okay.
not really, it's
Okay.
clean.
It's, okay.
But it's absorbed
I
chametz.
understand.
Yes, okay, let's pretend.
Absorbed.
yeah.
And then because you say the bracha and whatever was there prior to the first day of Pesach is batel, then therefore
No, that's not the reason.
That's
Good, that's
not-
good. No, the reason is that before Pesach, the concept of see, pig, the whole year it's not kosher. So when pig falls into something, you always have to have 60 against that pig.
Right?
But chametz on the Wednesday before Pesach, it's not you're allowed to eat bread. So this bread doesn't have to be nullified in 60 because it's kosher today. So now you're going to eat it on Pesach, but it was already nullified before Pesach. You don't have to worry about it. Nothing to do with the
bread
blessing
is
of the chametz.
It's forbidden only on Pesach, not before Pesach.
I
For Pesach,
understand that.
chametz
Yes.
is okay.
But,
So,
but the day after Pesach, I am eating from this pot that had bread in it.
no, it didn't have any bread.
It did.
No, it didn't.
The pot had bread in it.
The pot had bread in it, correct. It had
The
noodles
pot.
in it before pasta you made it, correct.
Pasta, bread, whatever.
Yes.
I
And
don't-
now this takes me to my second halakha. What is my second halakha? There's an argument between the Maran and Rama. You might be looking around the grocery stores now. You'll notice that a lot of things like fish and chicken and meat, raw chicken, raw meat and milk, they have little labels on them. Kasher le Pesach. I'm not talking to you about the soaps and the deodorant and everything. Like that's already
Crazy notion.
okay. I'm just talking now about the chicken and the meat and the fish. What could possibly not kosher about the chicken or the fish or the meat? You'll notice what else changed on the label aside from that it says kosher for Passover?
No,
The price. The price goes up at least twice or 3 times. Sometimes if you're in San Diego, it went up already in LA, it went up in the truck in San Clemente, and by the time we get to San Diego, it went up already all the way that I can't even afford it. That's why I come to LA to buy my food. Because if you think they're ripping you off,
Extra 2 days.
yes. For?
They close extra 2 days.
Oh, they close. So here you have a real problem. And the problem is the prices go up. And for what? For what purpose? You know there's a halakha. And this halakha is an important halakha to know. I don't know how much control we have of the Jewish community to do it. If you find out that before the holiday, the Jewish merchants are selling fish, let's say, at a higher rate because they know the Jews will pay whatever it takes to get fish for the holiday. The rule is, the halakha, that the rabbis must put a cherem, a ban, on buying any food from the Jewish merchants. And you have to tell people, you must go to the non-Jewish places and buy fish. Because we won't allow for this to happen, so people will take advantage of Am Yisrael. It's a halakha, that's a halakha.
The halakha is the same thing with chalot. If let's say a non-Jewish bakery does also chalot, let's say that all the ingredients are kosher, I mean like everybody else. So it's good to buy from the Jewish bakery. But if the price is higher in the Jewish bakery, the Shulchan Aruch says you should go to the Goy and buy.
Correct.
But that's because the challah is a basic ingredient of.
But still, he's preferring that people shop by the non-Jewish merchants.
Doesn't matter.
We then have Maran and Rama argue. What do they say?
Ingredients are kosher, that's all.
Rama tells us that, listen, how do you know? How do you know that the fish or the chicken or the meat, when they were cutting it on the counter, maybe there was a crumb of chametz, maybe there was something, maybe. So how do you know that on Pesach I'm going to open up this package of chicken to cook them, and I'm going to be cooking chametz inside of my food, and even in 1,000 it's not nullified? Says Maran, with all due respect, what if is not a formula in which we rule halachot. Halakha says, if there's chametz in there, so talk to me about the chametz that's there. But just to assume, for no good reason, that there is chametz somewhere is not a halakha. And this is going to be your primary difference, in my opinion, between Sephardim and Ashkenazim when it comes to Pesach. When we get these lists that come out, and please don't mention by names, these lists that tell you you can't buy this, and you can't buy that, and you can't eat this, and you can't do that, because maybe it was over there in a factory. I once heard a rabbi say that the dates that they dry in Palm Springs, in the air conditioning vents, there's flour from another room where they have this, and it comes through the vents onto the, and you don't know, you're eating a date, you think it's just a date, but really you're eating a loaf of bread at your Seder Pesach. You have to have a really good imagination sometimes to be a halachist of 2018. You have a lot of things you have to imagine. But imagination is not halakha. The Ben Ish Chai, memory should be forever, has a halakha in which he writes that there was a dream. He had a dream of a chassid, a righteous man, who forgot to floss his teeth before Pesach. And he was sitting at the Seder Pesach, and he was eating his matzah, and this crumb fell out of his tooth into the matzah. He ate it, and he comes back to Ben Ish Chai to tell him, the punishments that I'm getting in heaven, even though I was righteous my whole life, these punishments, I'm eating bread with my matzah. Please tell all the Jews to floss their teeth before Pesach. And I actually saw a paper that came from an elementary school, which is one of the halachot of the Eve of Pesach, to get rid of your chametz, to burn your chametz, and to floss your teeth. It's the same thing, biblical, rabbinic, and then this one, all in the same place. Chacham Ovadia Yosef, in his book Chazon Ovadia, he deals with this issue, and he says, listen, with all due respect to the Ben Ish Chai, we're not here to disrespect, but en mashgichin al divrei chalomot, words of dreams, you don't learn anything from dreams. So especially you don't learn halachot from dreams. And therefore, you don't have to, you don't have to floss your teeth before Pesach. You're okay, nothing will happen to you if you're sitting by the Seder. And yes, the Ben Ish Chai said it. Okay, you want to floss your teeth? Kol hakavod, floss your teeth. But it's floss your teeth every day, not just for Pesach. There are dentists in the room. I'm sure a dentist would agree with you. Yeah?
Yes, he will.
And this is why Sephardim, when we go shopping for Pesach, it's not that we're lenient. We follow the base halakha, which says, as long as there's no reason to assume that there is chametz inside of any of the products that I'm buying, then there's no reason in the world for me to worry about chametz in any of those products. The Ashkenazim disagree, fundamentally. And it's for that reason that Ashkenazim have lists, and they have restrictions, and they have rules. And I'll tell you the truth, is I didn't come to be the Mashiach for the Ashkenazim. I'm sure the Redeemer will come to redeem us all. I'm not going to fight with them about how they interpret the laws of Pesach. But it is wrong. It is wrong for Sephardim to believe that we're any less religious because we follow a code of laws that is older, that predates this custom, a custom which even the Ramah tells you is not the end of the world. If you wash off your chicken or your meat, he says you can eat it anyways. So what's the big deal? But worse than that, there are rabbis who say that if a Sephardic rabbi tells Sephardim to follow stringencies which go against our halachot and our rulings, that maybe vidui on Yom Kippur will help him. Maybe the confession Yom Kippur will help him. How could he do that? Why are our customs inferior? Why are our halachot? I didn't come to mess with anybody else's. You want to do yours? Fine. My mother's family in Moroccan should live and be well. All kinds of minhagim that are not necessarily halachot. They don't eat, for example, hummus on Pesach, not because of Kidneyot, because hummus sounds like chametz. You would tell your friend, you wait. So I told my mother, but you know Hebrew, chamtzan is oxygen. So maybe you can't breathe on Pesach either. But okay, at the end of the day, every minhag has a minhag. But I'll tell you the truth, and the truth is in my experience, even Sephardim who have customs, we're very careful to tell people that this is our custom. So we don't eat hummus. There's no halakha you have to eat hummus by the Seder. I like eating the hummus with my matzah, but you don't have to. But we never taught our children or our grandchildren or our yeshivot that it's forbidden to do these things. Simply that we refrain from doing things. And there's a big difference between saying that something is your custom and pretending that it's actually something that makes God happy. Because it's not. It doesn't make Hashem any happier. You eat hummus, you don't eat hummus. That's up to you. You want to do a custom? But to create it a halakha, and then to make other people feel like they're not religious, you're not. Kenyon in his house, he buys orange juice at Vaughn's. And what happened to orange juice in Vaughn's? Tell me. I got orange juice. What was inside of my orange juice? Orange juice. What could be inside my orange juice? What did they put in there? Bread? They made chamin inside of my orange juice? There's some sprouted barley? What?
They say that they use chametz filter.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
What
Even if that's the case.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. I don't know. But before, don't answer. What on earth is a chametz filter? What does that mean?
A bread filter.
No, they made it out of bread. Like, what do they do with this already?
Leaves. The filter.
They have stocks of wheat that is going through?
Probably.
I'm going to ask here a kashrut expert, Rabbi Yonatan. You know when factories do things? You know the machine that makes your spaghetti? Yeah? He doesn't make orange juice, the same machine. You know that? We have one machine that does one thing, another machine does another thing. The machines, the way they work, but the nature of a machine is that if it's an orange juice factory, they're not on the side also making flour in your orange juice machine. You know this?
Especially now with allergens.
Especially
celiac disease.
Again, this goes back to the what if. What if in the orange juice they're used, and what do we say? It's okay. If you're Ashkenazi, you can do that. I can't help you. But Sephardim, that's not a halakha. That's not, that's not a ruling that we accept. Yes, your hand was up.
Yes, a lot of people don't know all of the halachot. That's why they count on the OU and they count on the stickers and they count on that. So when you come and say, me myself, I don't know all the halachot. I count on the people that are there to do that. So now you're telling me I have to use my logic, but maybe I can't.
No,
what's your name, by the way?
Denise.
Denise over here. See, Denise, if I came tonight just to answer this question, it would be worth it. If I packed my bags and went back to San Diego, it would be worth it. I promise you I will get to the rest of the halachot, but this is a question that must be answered. First and foremost, the first question, somebody once came to ask a rabbi, it's an introduction to my book. They asked him a halachic question. Well, what does your rabbi do? He said, I don't have a rabbi. I said, well then first, go to the synagogue, beat your chest that you don't have a rabbi, then find a rabbi and ask him this question. Don't ask me this question. Every person has to have a chacham that they have a relationship with, that they trust. An internet website or a list from the OU, or even learning halachot from me, if you're a talmid of Rabbi Moshe would be inappropriate. They're a halachot that you go ask your chacham. Fine. Next thing, knowing halakha is an obligation of every single Jew. And I know that we don't always get that chance, but that's definitely not an ideal. The ideal is not to be in a situation where I don't know and therefore I have to ask everything or look everything. The ideal would be to work to a place where every person could use their logic and understand halachot on their own, in which case, so fine. So right now a person's a place would have to rely on somebody else, so how long could that last? 6 months? A year? How long does it take to learn laws of Pesach? A few weeks. And then you'll be able to know all the halachot on your own. And the third and last thing is, I bought a car last summer. I bought a minivan. We're running a summer camp. We needed a minivan. And I went to go ask the guy, I went to buy the minivan from this guy, and he tells me, I said, I want to go take it to the mechanic to get inspected. He said, come, I have a mechanic shop. I'll inspect it. He said, I'm not going to be your mechanic to inspect the car that I'm going to buy. I'm taking him to my mechanic. Would you trust a used car salesman to tell you that the car is in perfect condition? No, you wouldn't. How do you trust rabbis who their entire living is to make things kosher or not kosher, to tell you if things are kosher or not kosher? You see, if an organization could tell you, you could eat all these things with no kosher symbol, they would have to close the keys and go out of business. They rely on the dependency of the community on them, and therefore they have to say, listen, I can't. There was somebody a long time ago that did something very not good to me. And someone asked me recently to ask if they could trust his kashrut. I said, I want to tell you the truth is, I can't answer this question. I have to excuse myself. I'm biased. I don't have anything nice to say about this person, so I'm going to give you a phone number of somebody who knows them. Please ask them. When someone tells you, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, why are they telling you that? How do I know if they're telling me a halakha, or they're telling it to me because they're waiting for that contract to be in their pocket? How do you rely on the used car salesman to sell you the used car? And this is what I ask the Jewish community every year. How do you rely on the people who have a monetary interest in this cause to teach you the halachot? Yes?
I'll add to it that the OU, for example, puts their certification on deodorants and Lysol and things like that, not to lose their credibility for other things, because now they're gaining money from certain items.
So Fuad is the one bashing. I'm just putting on the record. I'm gonna do this with Fuad just for a second. If I tell my synagogue that Kiddush on Shabbat is going to be at 11:30 and Kiddush happens at 11:45, already they're thinking of throwing a board meeting and firing me. You understand? But when a rabbi constantly teaches fake halachot for his whole life and they get away with literally murder, putting a hechsher, I saw last year, forks that had a kosher symbol on them, and in the Hebrew letters it said, not recycled from anything used with chametz. The rabbi who signed his name here, aside from being, aside from being completely embarrassed, totally embarrassed, imagine you put your name on a thing that says these tiles are kosher Pesach. That shows I'm such an ignoramus that I think that tiles have to be certified kosher for Pesach. A rabbi like that should lose all their credibility entirely, all of their. And so Fuad is correct. When you start to see organizations like this that are doing things that are simply show that they don't have a knowledge of halakha, so how can you trust them on anything? That's the question.
That's why a lot of Jews are not religious. They don't believe in anything. I mean, how many 90% of the Jews don't follow nothing because they think it's all business.
And the sad thing is I can't tell them that they're wrong. That's the sad thing. And I always tell people, before you run away, before you leave Judaism, just give me a little bit of your time. I want to show you that there's a Torah that's pure, that's been untampered with. Just come learn it for a little bit, and I promise you won't walk away. Something will blow your mind, but you won't walk away from it. Yes.
Sorry, I don't need to take more time, but
Please.
I'm still not clear about the pot. The pot that I use...
Oh, I'm going to get to this pot. Don't worry, I didn't finish with the pot. Okay, I'm just now...
I was going to say Haggadah.
Okay, now we're getting to the laws of making things kosher. Can I tell you? Before we get to the laws of making things kosher, there's a few things, if I'm teaching you Sephardic halachot, things you need to know for Pesach. There are a number of ingredients that could be derivatives of chametz that a person should know about, which is why you should always ask the competent Talmid Chacham which things are permitted and prohibited. But there are many things that are derived from chametz, which are not chametz on Pesach. The greatest example that I can think of that is citric acid. Citric acid oftentimes comes from a chametz source.
Wheat.
From wheat. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes it comes from non-chametz sources. But Chacham Avodah Yosef ruled that this thing has reached a place where it was inedible, just like gelatin, which I gave a shiur about recently, and I know that not everyone agrees with me about gelatin, but that's okay. You don't have to. And this citric acid is not a problem on Pesach, and it can be used on Pesach. And this would go for a number of other ingredients if somebody is familiar with the ingredients. So when people scare you, this thing is a derivative of Pesach, of chametz, this is a derivative, and for the Ashkenazim it's even worse, because there are a lot of things that are derivatives of Kidneyot. For example, there's a pamphlet that goes around. There's a pamphlet, please don't, that's okay, but please don't mention names. There's a pamphlet that goes around this city every year. And in there, they tell you all kinds of things, like the first paper towel in the paper towel roll, you have to throw away if you're Ashkenazi because it sticks there with cornstarch. And God forbid you would wipe your plate with the cornstarch, and then you would have your matzah ball on there, and then you would be eating. Can you imagine Kidneyot on Pesach?
And
What?
And Gubra.
And Gubra. Okay. My friends, not only is not a halakha, but anybody who lived before the generation would have been embarrassed to sign their name off on such a halakha. And it's a really sad thing that that's the state of affairs. But even for an Ashkenazi person, do you know that Kidneyot are not prohibited? What are Kidneyot? Kidneyot are food items that certain Chachamim didn't allow their Jewish communities to eat because, for whatever reason, and there are a number of reasons given, they felt that eating this would directly cause them to eat chametz. I'll give you an example. Is there a grocery store near here?
Not here.
What's a grocery store you all know? Ralph's. Okay. Let's say I found out insider information that at Ralph's, before they lay the apples down on the racks, they put a layer of challah dough. Why? I don't know. I just pretend. There's a layer of challah dough, and they stick the apples on the challah dough so they can stay upright. Imagine, pretend, a crazy story. Pretend. And I told my community, listen, with all due respect, but I would have a hard time you eating apples from Ralph's on Pesach, because you're probably going to bring home little bits of challah dough, and I think you should refrain from eating apples from Ralph's on Pesach. Could you imagine, though, the absurdity of then my child moving to New York where they don't have challah dough apples? And he says, sorry, but our custom, we're Los Angeles or Hasidim, and in the Los Angeles or dynasty, we don't eat apples on Pesach, because back in the day, they used to stick the apples in the challah dough, and today, even though there's no challah dough, we can't eat apples anymore. Can you imagine such a thing? It's unheard of. But that's precisely what is the law of Kidneyot. There were real halachic issues. The rabbis who had issues were not making them up, for the most part. But they had issues. Those issues don't exist anymore, for whatever reason.
Yeah, in Spain, when I used to go buy sugar and flour, so there were sacks with the same spade you put it in a package, and you weigh, and you get your flour. And the same spade, you took rice, and there was always kind of a mixing of the bags. This
happens today. If you go to Sprouts,
it was
for example,
it was everything. So on Pesach, we didn't touch anything. That's it.
This is an idea of reality. You can't live in La La Land. This is a reality. So Sephardim, it's futile for me to say that Kidneyot are allowed, but even Ashkenazim are allowed to eat Kidneyot on Pesach that are nullified in other things. You have this kosher for Pesach Coca-Cola. Yeah. Now, Rabbi Moshe will tell you that Coca-Cola is not healthy for you, so I'm not here to talk to you about the health of Coca-Cola. Rather, the halachot of Coca-Cola. You understand? Very big difference. Coca-Cola has inside of it corn syrup. Are Ashkenazim allowed to have corn syrup?
No.
Why not?
Because it's corn.
It's corn, right? Ashkenazim can't have corn. But what does Ashkenazim know about corn?
Who's from Europe?
What do they know about corn? But let's pretend Ashkenazim can't have corn. Corn syrup is a derivative of Kidneyot. There are a myriad of poskim who hold that Kidneyot derivatives are ideally allowed for Ashkenazim on Pesach. But let's pretend that they're not allowed, because that's what they tell everybody. Once you put it in the Coca-Cola, how much corn syrup is there compared to the water in the Coca-Cola? It's nullified in majority. And therefore, even Ashkenazim, without even worrying at all, would be allowed to have Coca-Cola on Pesach, because Kidneyot is not chametz. Kidneyot can be nullified, not in 60, just in the majority of a mixture. And therefore, anything that has Kidneyot derivatives in it, they're allowed to eat. And I know that is a problem. So when I make my kosher for Pesach list, I have a category, all, for everybody. Then I have what I call ACA, Ashkenazim, and also those who eat citric acid. Yeah, so I have to put, because no, I want to be fair. Maybe they don't rely on everybody who's it. Then I have SKA, which is Sephardim, because it has corn syrup, and KA is Kidneyot Ashkenazim. Ashkenazim that eat derivatives of Kidneyot, or things that are nullified with Kidneyot. And then I have S, which is like, beans. So I can't help you. That's not a derivative, it's just a bean. But it's a very real thing that Ashkenazim could have anything that has Kidneyot inside of it, as long as it's not a majority of that mixture. But I didn't come to teach you those halachot for Ashkenazim tonight. You had a question?
Do you need to buy that Coke before Passover?
Oh, you want to talk to me about nullification and bitul? What's in that Coke? It's Kidneyot? So it's not chametz. So you don't have to buy it before Pesach. Even Ashkenazi doesn't have to buy it before Pesach.
I buy orange juice and milk in Pesach from Ralph.
Okay, let's go through that list. I have it here right in front of me. I'm embarrassed.
Yes.
Okay. Let me go through in 5 minutes all the laws of foods. Medications. Do medications have to be kosher for Pesach? No. Please stop being strict about Pesach. If you have a rabbi who certifies your medication, there's a problem. Medication, especially if it's important to your health, you eat it on Pesach. Especially if you're swallowing it. Do you know that if you swallow prohibited food, it's not the same prohibition as eating prohibited food, because you didn't get any enjoyment from that in your mouth? It's not kederech achila. The Rambam in the laws of forbidden mixture says if you swallow something, what's the big deal? You swallowed it. Cosmetics.
What about like natural fiber supplements?
The question about the natural supplements I get every year, and my opinion is, again, if you're swallowing it, that it's fine, but I know that this is already up to a person what they can, if the natural supplement to them is considered a medication or is just something they enjoy. If you've ever tasted a natural supplement, it's probably not something you enjoy so very much. Cosmetics, they have kosher for Pesach deodorant, hand creams, soap, face scrubs, lipstick. Tell me who here eats their deodorant? Like, you ever I don't have ice cream, so you split deodorant, you start licking your deodorant? And by the way, even if you would lick your deodorant, you would be put in a psychiatric ward, not writing books on the laws of Pesach, you understand? And therefore, cosmetics. What is the logic that cosmetics need to be certified? I want to tell you, the Ashkenazim have an argument. It's not, by the way, an Ashkenazi argument. It's a modern Ashkenazi argument. It's not an old. The Ashkenazim of the old country didn't have kosher for Passover cosmetics. And the argument is that regarding Yom Kippurim, our rabbis say that when you spread something on your skin, sicha k'shtiya dami. When you spread an ointment on your skin, it's like you're drinking. Which is why rabbis get this idea not to smear. But that's only regarding Yom Kippur, not regarding Pesach. If that was true, then all of the ointments used the whole year couldn't have any animal products in them. And that's not true. So why in Pesach is anything different? It's not different. All of your cosmetics are fine. Toothpaste.
Excuse me.
Yes.
What I've heard from the Ashkenazim is that they have something we don't have. They have a prohibition against ownership of anything that we call chametz, that they would take any benefit from, they derive benefit from, even if it's not eaten. So, for example, they don't buy dog food that has so-called chametz in it.
Remember your name?
They never eat it. The dog is going to eat it. But they can't come to ownership of what we call chametz that they take benefit from.
Remember your name?
Beirut.
Okay, I want to just a chacham. He's always one step ahead of me. That's actually the next halakha about toothpaste. Let me tell you. Ownership of chametz. What constitutes chametz or not chametz? There's two prohibitions. You cannot have chametz and you cannot have se'o. These are two things you can't have in your home. What is chametz?
Unleavened.
It's leavened of the 5 grains. What are the 5 grains? Could be here until next week. The 5 grains: wheat, barley, spelt, rye, oats. Let's tell you this, my friends. Oats is considered in this country one of the 5 grains, but there's so much compelling evidence that oats is not one of the 5 grains. But I'll tell you, my personal opinion is that I don't eat oats on Pesach, but I don't tell anyone to eat oat matzah on Pesach. So for example, if you think that you're going to fulfill your obligation with oat matzah, you shouldn't. Because there's a question as to the status of oats on Pesach. Oats are not something that's indigenous to the land of Israel. They don't grow like the other 4 grains grow. It's interesting, you notice, and this is not a halakha, but they don't have gluten like the other 4 of them do. There are other people who have identified, according to the Rambam, what are actually the 5 grains. I'm not here, though, to make a new Torah here in front of you right now. What I am here to tell you is any of those 5 grains which had water on them to the point where they became chametz, which our rabbis give a measurement of about 18 minutes. You then have se'o. What is se'o? What is se'o? Se'o is not yeast, because yeast is not chametz. It is used like yeast. It's dough that's left over to become sour, to ferment other doughs.
Mother dough, it's called.
Mother dough? Yeah, okay. Mother dough. This is se'o. It's chametz, yes, but it has another purpose to it. It gives life into a new bread.
Is it, you call it like a leavening agent?
A leavening agent that is made out of chametz, though. Not all leavening agents are forbidden.
This mother dough people have that they create.
For
It takes
3 days.
a few weeks to make.
Yeah.
They keep this under a closet somewhere in the dark, and it almost looks like a dough, but it's like a live culture that they make. It's almost like a dough. They will take a little bit of it, and they will create their other breads from it. And a baker will know to have. Don't use yeast. They use this mother dough.
Very good.
And
So
they
that is
cultivate
se'o.
it.
Let's tell you that se'o you're not so much dealing with today. In Pesach, you're mostly dealing with what's called chametz. And there's something called chametz nokshe, which I don't want to get into, but what if you make glue, let's say, out of chametz, and that's something else? But let's talk now about dogs. Dogs are very important here. And the halakha is that if it's not ra'ui la'achilat kelev, if it's not fit for the consumption of a dog, then it is not considered chametz on Pesach. What is considered fit for consumption by a dog? There was a guy who once came to Rav Soloveitchik, and he asked him, does toothpaste need to be kosher for Pesach? And Rav Soloveitchik said, it doesn't have to be kosher for Pesach. He says, but why? He says, my dog would eat it. He says, his dog wouldn't eat it. So he goes home and he gives toothpaste to his dog in his dog bowl, and his dog ate the toothpaste. So he comes back to Rav Soloveitchik and says, oh, see, my dog ate toothpaste. Toothpaste has to be kosher for Pesach. And he said, you fool, who learns halachot from a dog? When our rabbis are telling you that something is not fit for consumption for a dog, it's not actually as a dog. Dogs will eat all kinds of things that you. Those of you who kiss dogs on your mouth, like Hashem to bless you and forever. But it's. I hope you get your immunizations. That's all in the vaccinations. Whatever you need after that. The dogs don't decide halakha, but toothpaste is not considered ra'u l'achilat kelev. I will tell you, and this is a personal. It's not a stringency because not halakha. Toothpaste does not have to be kosher for Pesach. My rabbi, in matters of biblical issues, always likes to fly high, and therefore he prefers that if you can, why use toothpaste that has any kind of chametz inside of it? It goes inside of your mouth, but again, it's not a halakha, it's simply a personal preference. Shoe polish, I don't even know why I have shoe polish. Okay, but they write in the books that your shoe polish has to be kosher for Pesach, so I'm telling you, your shoe polish does not have to be kosher for Pesach. Books. Checking books. Did you ever hear that? You have to check all the books in your house for chametz. I remember as a kid, for hours, going through my parents' library, shaking out all the books from the imaginary crumbs that weren't there, because I didn't use this book in the last 2 years. Why would there be crumbs in it right now? This is not halakha. It was learned chumrah that was made up later in time. You don't have to check your books for chametz. The Chazon Ish, by the way, he was very particular. If he didn't check books, he wouldn't use them on Pesach. So they say that every year he would retreat. He closed his library and he would retreat to another room. And he used to take 2 books with him. A special chumash that he had for Pesach, and another book that was written by some young rabbi somewhere in Bnei Brak. They said, wow, look at Chazon Ish. He only takes 2 books on Pesach, this chumash and this young rabbi's book. This young rabbi, he must be the next leader of the generation. And they asked the Chazon Ish, why is it that you use these 2 books? Who's this great rabbi? He said, I actually have no idea who he is. All I know is that there's nothing useful inside of this book, so I for sure didn't use it in the last year. So the 2 books I can take out of my library are my special chumash and this guy's book. That's all I can tell you. Checking books, it's not necessary. The only time you would not check books, but put aside books, are the books you use, let's say, in your Shabbat table. Have you ever seen those birkonim? You get them, and they tell you a story about the life of the birkon. What kind of soup they made last week, how many different kinds of chalot are stuck to the pages. The wine, you know the page with the wine is always purple, black, and brown. Maybe it's a good thing to take birkonim for Pesach and use your Haggadot instead. I didn't say that it's a problem. I'm simply suggesting here a practical suggestion. It would be a nice thing when I go to people if they change their birkonim every year, so the moldy ones from last year would not be sitting on my plate where I'm going to put my food. Hats and clothing. Someone told me you have to go to a dry cleaner and ask them not to use wheat starch or corn starch in your shirts. If you're eating your shirts, again, is there a psychiatrist here that I can suggest? I'll refer people to you. I only take a 3% percentage. Chicken, we already covered this. Chicken, there are many people who have a custom not to eat chicken on Pesach because maybe the chicken is eating chametz, you're going to find it in his belly. That's not a halakha that you have to be worried about. Milk and eggs, they tell you have to buy all your milk and eggs before Pesach. You've heard this?
Yes.
Why?
Everyone,
why?
It's because they feed the animals chametz.
They feed the animals chametz. Who is feeding animal chametz?
The goy.
It's a non-Jewish guy. I don't know. Maybe there's a Jewish farmer in the United States, but imagine like the Jewish kid who comes home and tells Mom, I want to be old McDonald. You know, she's like, yeah, a doctor, a lawyer, you got what are you, old McDonald? And for the most part, the farmers that are feeding these animals are not Jewish. You know, your cow and your chicken, they eat all kinds of things during the year that are totally not kosher, like worms and feces and other such wonderful things. It doesn't make your milk not kosher the rest of the year. Also for Pesach, it doesn't make it not kosher. Some have a custom to buy beforehand. If that's your custom, get a big refrigerator, but that's not a halakha. You can go during Pesach and buy milk and eggs and everything you need. Just buy for what you need for the first holiday, and Chol Hamoed, you can go again and get what you. And you have to think about this. Imagine you told a person 100 years ago, you can't buy milk. You have to buy all your milk before Pesach. What are they going to do with the milk? 2 hours later, the USDA requires that the milk be thrown away because of bacteria growing inside your milk. What are you going to do? So they don't have milk the whole Pesach? It can't be that people stocked up on milk before Pesach. This is simply an invented halakha, and you could just throw it out of the window from which it came. Sugar. Sugar is an interesting thing. Sugar used to be sold by weight because in many places sugar was a very expensive commodity. If you ever read the etiquette of the Queen of England, they had all kinds of crazy things. In Europe, spices were so hard to come by that it showed people how wealthy you were when you put spices in your food. You have people that they were at the royal palace and they had a chicken with cinnamon and black pepper and cumin and turmeric and every spice they could think of. They put it inside there together and then sugar, just to show how rich we are. The food tasted horrendous, but spices were a status. Sugar was a very expensive thing. If you go to Mexico or you go to a Mexican store, you'll still see that they sell these cones of sugar. They would sell sugar like this, but instead, not like those cones, they would throw in some flour in there. The reason? It's the oldest trick in the book. I'm going to sell you a pound of sugar, but really it's 3/4 of a pound of sugar and 1/4 of a pound of flour, and you wouldn't know the wiser. And that's why the Ashkenazim who don't eat, my grandfather from Morocco also didn't have sugar on Pesach. Why? Because they're afraid of the flour. So what would they do? They tell you got to boil your sugar. Why do you have to boil your sugar? What does it help? If I have chametz inside my sugar, what's going to help if I boil it? Now I have cooked chametz with my sugar. Because the dough would go to the top if there was such a thing, and you take it out and you use the sugar for Pesach. I was at somebody's house and they're actually still boiling their CNH sugar. And they're imagining the dough that goes to the top. And they don't use any sugar for Pesach aside from the one they boiled before Pesach. My grandfather, when he came to Israel, the first year he was drinking his tea with a date in his mouth so it would be sweet. And after that they told him, listen, here there's no flour in the sugar. And Baruch Hashem, Mazal Tov, sugar was okay to be used. That's what should be with everyone else. That's not a custom not to have sugar. Again, there was a problem. The problem was fixed. Let the Jewish people move forward. Salt. People are worried about iodine inside of the salt. There's a rabbi. Iodine. That's interesting. Iodine. Iodine inside of the salt is maybe derived from chametz. Iodine is also a poison, in which case it's definitely not really Kehillat anybody. And you don't have to worry about this inside of your food. Coffee. What could possibly be wrong with coffee? I know the instant coffee guys and their chametz and the coffee. All coffee is good for Pesach. All of it. Instant coffee, regular coffee, Turkish coffee. As long as it doesn't say ingredients, coffee and flour. If this says that, then you can't have it for Pesach. Aside from that, all of your coffee, your K-cups, your Nespresso machines, you don't eat. Please don't make your coffee machines kosher for Pesach because what does your machine make? Your Keurig machine, what does it make? Coffee. Does it make anything else? So then why would you make it kosher for Pesach? I see people every year, they bring the hot water urn to get kosher for Pesach. What did you put in the hot water urn aside from hot water? I said, once we made coffee in there. I know, but coffee is kosher for Pesach. People bring me every year in the boiling hot water, they want to put their kiddush cup. I said, my dear friend, I want to tell you just a few things. First off, that's silver. It's worth a lot more than other things you have in your house. But let's pretend boiling silver is a good idea. What did you put inside of your kiddush cup that made it not kosher for Pesach? The wine. What's the wine? In fact, every wine says kosher for Pesach anyway. So what are you worried about? But we're going to talk about koshering things in just a few seconds. Tea is the same thing. As long as there's no chametz inside of the tea, you're more than welcome to enjoy your favorite teas throughout Pesach.
For wine, it's basically just cold liquid.
Talking about cold, I didn't want to talk about that because I'm going to talk in 2 minutes about kosher utensils.
So all the teas are okay?
Without flavor, no?
Why would that flavor? What's going to be in the flavor? Maybe, what if they put a flavor in there? What if it's not a halakha? Don't worry about it. Unless they're telling you there's a flavor. Yes?
Going back to saying, how we talked about anything less than 160 before Passover is basically nullified during Passover. So anything manufactured already is made before Pesach anyways.
Correct.
Why during the Chol Hamoed?
There are those who want to say, you don't know, the turnover rate could be it was made on Pesach. They're getting some really fresh food. If the Chol Hamoed Pesach, that stuff came straight from a factory. But I'm not discrediting them, just saying that I don't know where they live. That's all I'm saying.
What about corn tortillas?
What about corn tortillas? It's the fact that I spoke about Kidneyot, suffice about Kidneyot. Corn tortillas are kosher for Pesach. What are the ingredients in corn tortillas? Not, by the way, the ones you get from Kroger, you shouldn't buy them. There are better tortillas than that. Yeah, tortillas have corn, water, and sometimes they put lime inside of them, like a lime juice. That's all. No, most tortillas you buy in the store don't have anything else aside from those 3 ingredients. Those are.
Have a regular OU is fine?
Or extra.
Like in those news press conferences, they have the one person that's paid to ask the questions. This is Fuad. If you don't know Fuad, I want to thank him for everything he did for tonight. Baruch Hashem. He really made this happen to scale the mitzvot. It doesn't have to have even an OU on it or anything else. Yes.
Lime powder, it's not lime. Citric.
It's lime juice.
I think that was powder.
In my reading of the ingredients, it's lime juice. But Mario, you guys have a tortilla, so what do they put in there?
I've never seen tortillas that have 3 ingredients. Most of the time, these items you buy have a list of 3.
No, not corn tortillas. Flour tortillas, you're right. Corn tortillas.
These corn tortillas, anything. Most of the time, a lot of these items you buy have a long list of.
Not corn tortillas. I'm going to argue with you on this, just respectfully.
Let's look it up.
No, I'm
Expert.
not expert, but I've been in my checking the backs of corn tortillas for a few years now. It's mamash. Why don't you do this? You look, tell me. I'll put out a video saying that I was wrong. I'm happy to do that. Gelatin and insect coloring. Just touching on it because every year, yeah.
Because I take vitamin B every day, and it says gelatin.
Oh, very good. So you're gonna find out right now. I spoke about gelatin already once.
My blood pressure.
Gelatin of all animals, from all sources, with the exception, yes, of a few chachamim who disagreed. I can never tell you that all the chachamim agreed on something. Our opinion is that all gelatin, from all sources, is kasher the entire year and it's palvit. Gelatin is reduced to a place where it's no longer food. It doesn't make a difference where it came from. This whole idea that gelatin is not kosher, I won't call it a myth, but it's an opinion of 1 or 2 or 3 chachamim. Yes, not all of them were Ashkenazim. 2 Ashkenazim and 1 Sephardic rabbi that I can think of.
Rabbi Moshe Feinstein forbade it.
And in this country, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was a big source of halakha, and he forbade it. He called something called achshevai. It's coming again back to life, this gelatin. But the bottom line is that there's a kosher pamphlet that goes out in this city. And every year they write an introduction of it that no reputable kosher organization would certify something with gelatin. No reputable kosher Jew would ever say that about other rabbis who are certifying things for Pesach. It's a disgusting thing to write. And the fact that such a person can still write such things and walk the streets as a free person is unbelievable. It's an unbelievable thing. Who are you to determine what is what was the word that I used? What kind of kosher agency? Reputable kosher agency. How do you know what's reputable and what's not? This is a halakha we've done for many, many years. Insect coloring comes in the same thing. You'll see in the same pamphlet they talk about insect coloring. You have carmine and all kinds of wonderful things. And even the chief rabbinate of Israel, who are my dear friends and chief rabbinate of Israel, their official ruling on carmine is that for their regular products, they put all carmine inside of them. And for their mahadrin line, they use carmine that has waited for 12 months before they put it into a product. This idea that insect colorings are not kosher is not a halakha. Halakha was that we've used insect colorings in our food time immemorial. For example, in North Africa, the custom was to, and I know you might not like it, but the rabbis recorded that they used to use dam tayish nikrash, goat's blood that was dried, and they would scrape it off into food and it would turn it red. What's the big deal? Now, if you want to understand why those halakhot are, they are. In my book, I have an entire chapter on it, and you're more than welcome to check those out. That's everything that I have to say about food. I want at this point to take a pause, and not to make a break, just a pause. I want to talk to you for the rest of the evening on how to make your kitchen kosher. It's very simple once I explain to you the halakha, and then I'll walk you through every single appliance you have in your kitchen and let you know how to make it kosher. I know that people's times are precious. I don't want anyone to feel pressured. If there's at any point in time you have to get up and go, that's absolutely okay with me. And this class may or may not go on the internet. If it doesn't go, unfortunately, the zealots that think they're Pinchas, that will throw arrows through your body, are more numerous than those who will appreciate such a video. And oftentimes you have to be careful. But if you need to leave, please don't feel bad about it. You can always find Angel about a book, and most of what I'll say is already written inside of that book. Can I take questions about food products that you might be worried about or concerned about that you want to know about? That's what I wanted to open up for just 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll go into Kashering utensils. Yes?
Artificial sweeteners, Splenda.
Artificial sweeteners, Splenda, stevia, those are all fine. Stevia Splenda, which they tell you is going to have chametz inside of it, it doesn't have chametz inside of it. You're okay. Yeah.
I have a list at home, and on the list it says that a lot of the chocolates and confectionery, sugar, you mentioned sugar, but like chocolates and like candy bars, they're all kosher.
They're all kosher Pesach?
Well, not all of them, but like Hershey's. And,
are you talking about Rabbi Buddies' list?
I think it's Rabbi Cohen.
Okay, could be, fine. Just 1 second, because people are going to ask me about Rabbi Buddies' list. I don't know Rabbi Buddy personally. I've been hoping to meet him. Last time I was on the East Coast, I was supposed to go meet him personally. It didn't work out. God willing, on the next trip to the East Coast. Rabbi Buddy is a tremendous Talmid Chacham, and one that it can rely on. I have his books of halakha, not just his kosher for Pesach works, and they're a work of a tremendous scholar and a big Talmid Chacham who doesn't need my approval. People ask me, can you rely on this list? That's like asking me if you have to rely on another. It's a person who carries his own weight. You don't have to ask me this question. But there are some concerns that people have, and I want to address them. My opinion is that his list is absolutely good for Pesach, with the exception of a few things that I'm not always comfortable with. One, in the past there were oat products on that list, and he took that off that list in recent years, so that's my personal opinion about oats, that one shouldn't use them for Pesach. The second thing that is there oftentimes are grape products with grape juice inside of them or such things. Rabbi Abadi's opinion regarding the temperature for which bishul should be done at it's an opinion that he relies on, and you can rely on it too, but my rabbis personally were not comfortable using that temperature to make things kosher, at least on the chatchila level, and therefore I always recommend you could use that list. Just stay away please from the oats, from the grapes, and sometimes, though I haven't noticed this so much recently, sometimes there are actual cheeses which Rabbi Abadi allows, and I gave a class I didn't give a class fully about it, but my verdict on cheese is still out, and therefore I'm just like, use the list in good health. Baruch Hashem, you don't have to feel it's a comprehensive list and it's done very well. Just in case you needed a list for Pesach.
What about cereal?
Cereal. I can tell on the top of my head, I don't really eat cereal so much. A lot of the cereals that you think are kosher Pesach might not be. For example, Rice Krispies. We can have rice on Pesach, but Rice Krispies actually has barley malt inside of it, which is why it should be avoided. There are off-brands of Rice Krispies that just have rice, which would be fine for Pesach. Cocoa Pebbles, Cocoa Pebbles and Fruity Pebbles are good for Pesach. They might not be good for your health, but they're good for Pesach. Not Cocoa Puffs. Be careful. Puffs are the big round ones. Pebbles are the flat rice ones. Yes. You have a whole thing of Chex. What do they call them? The honey Chex. What do you? Not Chex Mix. No, it's a cereal called Chex. It's rice or corn. Not cakes. Sometimes cakes. Those are good for Pesach also. Just check. There's kinds that are gluten-free, and you look on the back, they only have. Not everything that is gluten-free is kosher for Pesach, according to us again. Oats could be a problem. Anyone else had a product? Yeah. Tomato paste. What is inside of the tomato paste? The vinegar. Okay. Every time you find vinegar in an ingredient, our opinion is that you have to verify the source of that vinegar. There are chametz vinegars and there are non-chametz vinegars. And we make phone calls about a certain line of products every year. For example, in the past, Costco used to carry Heinz vinegar, let's say. That vinegar is made out of potatoes, and that's able to be used for Ashkenazim and Sephardim. The brand they currently carry is called Four Monks. Four Monks derives from corn, which again, I believe Ashkenazim could use, but they don't, and so it doesn't help much. But for sure, Sephardim could use that. And therefore, to translate, many of the Heinz products are using a distilled white vinegar that comes from even Kidneyot products. They're simply from potato products, and that would allow many products like that. Most things that have vinegar, if you ask me them, I'll say, why don't you call the manufacturer? Ask them what kind of vinegar, and I'll tell you if it's good or not. That's what I do with most products that have vinegar. That's my default answer.
All U.S. this still white vinegar is fine. That's fine.
Okay. If you know that to be a fact, then that's fine. I'm not. I don't know. So.
But isn't vinegar that was intended to clean not as wine in the first
You're talking
place?
about wine vinegars. I'm talking about chametz vinegars.
Oh, okay.
Something else. Okay, can I go to the kashering of the kitchen?
Yeah.
Yes, Baruch Hashem. And there's a kitchen over there, right? It's locked though. Can I get a few different kinds of cups and plates from that table and forks and knives? So just whatever, one of everything that you can bring to me. The laws of making utensils kosher for Pesach is much easier than you think, and it will make your cleaning for Pesach much easier. How do I know that? Chachamim told us. When do you clean your house for Pesach?
Out of Pesach.
3 weeks before.
No, 3
My mother, Chanukah, already cleaning it. No, don't eat chametz upstairs. So the whole year, really, we're not eating chametz in the house anyways. Yeah? You know, you had the same mother that I have, maybe. So, and, what?
Get ants.
You get ants. Okay, that's a cleanliness reason. You're supposed to clean your house from chametz.
On Erev Pesach.
You start from Sukkot. Whoa. Very good. Oh Hashem. Thank you so very much. And is there a bigger cup than this one? Maybe? Thank you. Angel, if you don't have, then I have one. Oh, the washing cup. Perfect. Chachamim say you clean your house, you search your house for Pesach the night before Pesach. Yeah, that's no. Why do you do bdikat chametz? Thank you so much. When do you do bdikat chametz? If Pesach comes on Friday night, you're going to do it on a Thursday night. What happens if you already cleaned your whole house for Pesach? And you know there's no more chametz in your house. Are you allowed to make a blessing on the searching for chametz that night? No. You can't.
But you take your chametz, you put them around.
Oh, yafeh mod. Can I tell you a halakha? Just if you brought that up, I was waiting for this. That's not the reason why people hide chametz. It has something to do with some kind of Kabbalistic thing, which is not in my jurisdiction at all. But let's say that was the reason, because we want to make chametz so we can search for chametz. Thank you. There's a halakha called bracha she'ena tzricha, a blessing which you don't need to make. So let's say that I'm about to wash my hands for my shawarma with kuftas inside of it, yeah? Lafa with kufta, yeah? I'm here sitting down, and I see on the countertop, there's a plate of shawarma, and I want a bite of that because I ordered the kufta, not the shawarma, and I don't know what to do. So I say, you know, my wife's there, I take a spoon, I eat it, I go wash my hands, I sit down at the meal, and I make a hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Our rabbis say that I violated one of the 10 commandments. Lo tisal, you cannot say Hashem's name in vain. Why? Because if I would have waited 5 minutes, I could have had the shawarma in the middle of the meal without having to make a blessing on it. I forced myself to make a blessing, and because of that, I'm guilty of saying Hashem's name in vain. So to hide pieces of chametz around the house in order to say a blessing on them is the same isur of bracha she'ena tzricha, a blessing which is not necessary.
So we don't do bedikat chametz.
No. Thank you. I forgot your name. Evelyn. I didn't ask your name. That's why I forgot it. Evelyn is saying that's so we don't do bedikat chametz. That was not the logical conclusion of my discussion. Rather, it was leave at least a part of your house that you didn't clean for Pesach because you have to do part of the mitzvah that night.
But we have to cook.
You have to cook. So leave your kitchen. Leave your kitchen chametz. Maybe that's not a good idea for you. Leave a room that has chametz. Somewhere has to have a real chametz in it. So go look for it. Or else you should check, but without a bracha. But if you're already checking for chametz, what do you take with you when you check for chametz?
Candle.
Candle. What kind of candle?
Flashlight.
Very small.
Feather.
Very small.
A feather, a candle, a feather, a spoon, a wooden spoon. Why are you carrying all these things with you?
Kabbalistic.
Because our grandparents and my grandparents, I don't know if they did, maybe they didn't. Since today you have to have a beeswax candle. So then they ask the question, are you allowed to use a flashlight instead of a candle? The answer is, of course you can. No, but some people say, well, there's a lot of significance to the candle. Yes, you can use a flashlight. But I have a question. Why are you using a flashlight? Why do you turn on the light? Why is everybody sitting in a pitch black house? They turn off the lights for bdikat chametz. The whole point of this mitzvah is to look for the chametz, no? Who is going to find? Imagine you were looking for something outside in your yard with a flashlight. You have floodlights. You could flood the whole parking lot. But instead, we have to use a flashlight. And those who are using the candle, you think they're finding any chametz in the dark? No. They can't tell between their thumb and their other feet. They don't know the difference between them with the light. So you turn on your lights and you check with the lights on. You also want to carry around the candle? Okay, I'm not going to take away your candle for you. Just make sure you don't burn the house down before Pesach because you have a lot of guests that are coming. If you're going to do this thing of hiding the pieces of the chametz, all I ask for you is make a list of where you put them. Almost every year I get a question. I hid pieces of chametz in my house that I already cleaned for Pesach, and we forgot where we put one of the pieces of chametz. Let me explain to you how this works. If you have breadcrumbs all over your house is kosher for Pesach. You know that? Why? You were saying it before. It's not the size of an olive. It's not a kazait of chametz. You're not obligated to get rid. Look, little crumbs of chametz. I always tell my mother, dust is not chametz. You know, it's not. But breadcrumbs all over that's okay. But if you have all of the breadcrumbs into one bundle, like a piece of bread, that you're guilty of owning chametz on Pesach. So now you had a house that was clean for Pesach. Maybe there were some breadcrumbs under the oven you didn't reach, but you decided, no, I have to put real chametz inside of my house. How much real chametz? 10 pieces of real chametz in my house. And I forgot where I put the last one. Why would you do that to yourself? If you want to talk about all the stringencies you could possibly have for Pesach, start with not putting chametz inside of your house before Pesach. Let's start with that one. Or at least make a list. That's all I'm asking. Please make a list. Yeah, you got your hand up? No, okay. So, making utensils kosher. You could really start everything the night before Pesach, but I know that nobody's going to listen to me about that. Before you make a utensil kosher, if you're buying new utensils, they have to go to the mikveh. Yeah, it's a simple halakha. You buy a pot, a pan, a cup, they go to the mikveh. Which pots and pans and utensils go to the mikveh?
Metal and glass.
Metal is according to the Torah. Glass, according to our rabbis. What about ceramic?
No.
There are people who tell you have to do ceramic. It's not true. It's made it up. Plastic?
Aluminum.
No.
Plastic? What about plastic? Doesn't go to the mikveh. Were there rabbis who wanted to say that plastic goes to the mikveh? Yes, but we don't listen to them. What about aluminum pans? Do you mean disposable pans? Somebody asked this question, and they said, disposable pans. He says, they're disposable. They're not something that you hold on to. We're a kola family. We're very poor, and so we use it 6, 7, 8 times. That's an unbelievable brand of disposable pans you have right there, but it's still considered disposable because at 8 times you're going to throw it away. This should not be translated into a different halakha, which I hear people pretend, which is you can buy anything and use it once before it goes to the mikveh. It's a fabrication. It's a lie. There's no such thing. Anything you buy that is going to stay in your kitchen has to go to the mikveh before you buy it. When? If you buy it from someone who's not Jewish. If a Jewish guy made you a pot in Tzfat somewhere and you decided to buy it at $350, you're more than welcome to bring it home with you, and you don't have to put it in the mikveh. But so long as it was made and or sold to you by someone who is not Jewish, it has to go to the mikveh. If it's glass or it's metal, and it's used with food. So your candlesticks don't have to go to the mikveh. And the things that you don't eat from don't have to go to the mikveh.
Hookah doesn't have to go.
Hookahs. I don't answer smoking questions. I'm talking about what?
Hookah.
About hookah. Don't get in there.
Toaster.
Your toaster. What do you do with electronic appliances that need to go to the mikveh?
No.
What do you do?
You don't. Any electrical things.
Yep.
Electrical appliances, Kehillat, that touch your food need to go to the mikveh. How do you do it? You have 2 solutions. Your first, if it's a low-tech electronic appliance, you can put it in the water and let it sit outside for 3 days. Baduk u'minuseh, nothing will happen to it. If it's some fancy machine you bought with digital screens, don't listen to me on this one. Don't do it. Rather, just take it apart to the point where it can't be used anymore. Put it back together and shalom and Israel. Some poskim want to say that major electronic appliances that are plugged into the wall don't require tevilah because they're part of the house. Some poskim they weren't comfortable with that, but okay. If your utensils are not used by you, let's say you own a company and they're being used commercially, they don't have to go to the mikveh either, according to many opinions, and it's something that most people should know. Yes?
I heard some people gift their utensils, let's say...
To a non-Jew. Like the same people who sell chametz, right? Mm-hmm. If somebody would come to their house and take that KitchenAid mixer, what would they do? They call the police on them, no?
It's not expensive, $20, $30 toaster.
Okay, so Maran quotes this opinion when he talks about immersing something that you need for Shabbat that you couldn't get to. You can't immerse a utensil on Shabbat according to some poskim because you're finishing the creation of that utensil. Right. So what you do is you go to your next door neighbor Ahmed and you say, "Here, Ahmed, you want to own this pan? Now can I borrow it from you?" You take it. It says Maran that on Sunday morning you should go take it to the mikveh. It's not used in halakha as a long-term solution. It's a short-term solution in halakha.
Why do we have to take the dishes?
Why do we have to take it to the mikveh? That's a wonderful question. And in my book I have a chapter on this. And the simple understanding is that there is not really a logical reason for why things go to the mikveh. But the reason given, for example, by the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe Benzaquen, is that utensils are the way the Jews use utensils is in a spiritual way, in a holy way, and they're supposed to go through some kind of conversion process. Just like somebody who was not Jewish would join the Jewish people by going through a mikveh, so too our utensils would also go through such a process. But Hashem didn't say that, so I can't tell you that that's the reason why we do it. And what makes something, what's a mikveh? A real mikveh, where ladies go, a utensils mikveh, or any natural body of water, like an ocean or something like that, you can use those things. Just remember that when you throw it, not as a mikveh. Okay, now that I told you have to put the things in a mikveh, let's skip that halakha. Swimming pool would not count, at least not most swimming pools wouldn't count for that. Kashering utensils. There's a halakha. Kibolo, kach polto. Remember this halakha. The way something is absorbed is the way that it's spit out. It's expleted, is that the word? Expelled? Yeah, very good. The way that's absorbed is the way that it's expelled. So let's give you an example. I have here my, let's pretend this is a pot, okay? This is my chicken soup pot. We're going to pretend. This pot is used by putting it on a stove, right? You put it on a stove, and there's heat, and there's water boiling in here. And let's say that I put noodles in here, correct? So these noodles have now supposedly given flavor into the pots of my, the walls of my pot. I'm going to throw it out there that according to Sephardim, glass doesn't absorb any flavor, and therefore glass does not ever have to be made kosher for Pesach, ever, 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 not for the whole year. You could have in a Sephardic home a glass plate, which the morning of Pesach, before the time you have to get rid of Pesach, you could have hot pancakes on it. Yeah? Then you just wash it off in the sink, like you regularly wash your plate, and then you're going to bring it to the seder, and you're going to have your matzah on it, and you're going to put your kosher for Pesach chicken on it, and the next morning you're going to wash it off, and you're going to have hot cheese food on there. It's all the same. It doesn't need to be. Why? Why is that true? Because the way something absorbs is the way that it expels. This pot, the glass cannot absorb anything, and therefore it doesn't expel anything, and so there's no problem because it never becomes not kosher. There's no such thing as not kosher glass.
Is Pyrex the same?
Pyrex is an interesting question, but let's say that Pyrex is the same. Yes, okay. And it's a question about tevilah, whether it's required, but let's say that Pyrex is the same. And really, if you're going to press me up against the wall, and there was not a camera right now, most materials that we have today are not absorbing anything really, but we're going to pretend for the sake of this conversation that the metal you're using absorbs. It's an absolute, again, imagination, but I'm just going to use it to show a halakha. That's why I'm telling
most plates that are made you look like it is ceramic, they're all glazed. They're all glazed. There is no such thing as a ceramic.
But
ceramic is...
just point the camera at Rabbi Moshe, so when they come to burn down his house, it's going to be his house and not my house, okay?
A red plant. That's, you see the ceramic, I mean, that's ceramic, you know. But a glass is, a plate.
Talking about China.
China, anything that I buy from anywhere,
there are sometimes
a layer of glaze. It's glazed.
There are sometimes plasticware things that you buy that you can actually like smell the stuff you ate in there before. It's really cheap quality. That kind of stuff would have the status of something that absorbs. You have to use your brain here of what absorbs, what doesn't. I'm going to just pretend in all of this that we're talking about metal utensils that need to be kosher. So this is sitting on a fire. There was spaghetti in here. I want to use this for Pesach. How do I make it kosher? Let me explain. Biblically, after 24 hours pass since I last used this, it parav again. It doesn't have a status of anything. Anything after 24 hours is biblically permissible to be used for anything. So if you made pork chops in this pot, I don't even know how you make pork chops. That's pronounced in a pot. Now you made it, and then you cleaned it, and 24 hours later, this pot is kosher. And parad.
I have to change my pot.
Wait. Yeah, you understand? Okay. No, wait. Are you guys related to each other? So now this pot. After 24 hours, our rabbis say, sorry. In the Talmud, they write, we don't want to let you use this pot after 24 hours, because what if you wait 23 hours, you're trying to cut corners, so we're afraid. Gzera atu ben yomo. Maybe it was used in the last 24 hours, and maybe you're not going to wait enough. Our rabbis say that if you made pig inside of this pot, until you make it kosher, it will always be a pig pot. Even though the Torah doesn't say that, our rabbis instituted that. Which means that now it's on a rabbinic level, not on a biblical level. So I'm going to tell you the first thing that I always recommend is when you want to make a utensil kosher, the easiest thing to do is just wait 24 hours. Because you've already brought this whole thing into a rabbinic question. most of the pots and pans in your home, have you used them in the last 24 hours? How many pots do you own?
No. I have 5 maybe for Passover and 5 for every day.
Every day? What about you? She doesn't have 5. I promise you she has like 30.
5,000.
5,000. Yeah, 5,000. How many pots could you possibly have used last night? 1. The rest of your pots biblically are already palvit. So now to make them kosher just means going through a process. It's no longer really making it kosher. So how do I make this pot kosher? If I made it kosher by boiling pig inside of here, so I wait my 24 hours, I fill it with water, and I boil it inside of there so that the not kosher pig comes out, and this pot is kosher to Pesach. The easiest way to do it really is not to boil inside, it's to take, imagine this is my smaller pot. I'm going to boil water in here, and I'm going to put it in there, take it out, and then it made this pot kosher to Pesach.
What about in your book you said that the majority of it's used?
Oh, what? Oh, yeah. Okay. Now what happens if... Can we pretend it's a bowl? Because it has a little bit of a depth to it. I make chicken soup over here, nachon? So this chicken soup is sitting on the fire. I'm taking out my chicken soup. This ladle. How do I make this ladle kosher? I dip it into something that is boiled in hot water. Does it have to be boiled? No, it gets dipped into something that's hot water. Yeah? Now what about this thing? This bowl?
That's a second.
This bowl is already, it could be even a third. This bowl is not sitting on the fire. It's not as hot as what's in the ladle. It's a third thing. This really just has to have some hot water poured on it that is this heat, not even this heat. It's very hard though to make hot water that is this temperature. So let's pretend you take your hot water, you pour it over your utensil, and that's all kosher le Pesach. But it's all about temperature. So instead of making a mess out of your kitchen, let me tell you a few shortcuts that I've never said on camera before, but I'll say them this year because I'm not afraid anymore, because they've already tried to burn my house down. So, your dishwasher that you have in your house. Your dishwasher in your house, have you ever touched dishes that come right out of that dishwasher? How hot is it? Burn your hand?
It's 160 degrees.
It could be even hotter than that. It could be hotter than that.
I cannot put plastic.
Yes? You can put your utensils, not the pot, because the pot, remember the pot, he sits on real fire, or on a hot heat temperature. But everything else, you can put it inside your dishwasher, close the door, run a dishwashing cycle, take it out, shalom and Israel. All of those things are kosher le Pesach. I'm not afraid. You will sleep very well at night knowing this halakha. Where did I learn this halakha? I was once a mashgiach in a commercial kitchen, and they have, I wish I could get one in my house, but it's too big. They have this commercial dishwasher, which it's like a long conveyor belt, and you put something on this end, and it goes through, and it blows it with hot water. It boils, it comes out, it's already dry on the other side. This could be called the deluxe kashering machine. If you wanted to make money after this, you just take it to Pico Robertson, set it in the middle of the street, and charge people $10 for everything they bring you. Now you would be a millionaire. And the next thing you could do, if you would like, see my pot? I have a big pot that fits most of my pots, but my other pots don't really fit in that pot, and it gets messy. And my wife doesn't appreciate that the day before Pesach, and bad enough her kitchen is crazy. I want to make water all over it. I take my pots and I put them inside of my oven. And I turn the oven on to the highest temperature that I could go, 500 in my oven. And you have to wait till this gets so hot that you can't touch it. How hot is that? Till you can't touch it. That's not so long in there, by the way. A few minutes in the oven, everything gets hot. And then you take it out, and all of your pots are kosher le Pesach. I did it though in my first year of marriage. My mother-in-law bought us a brand new set of fancy dishware from New York. She sent it over FedEx to San Diego. And my wife wanted to make them kosher for Pesach. I didn't want to put them each one inside of a pot, so I said, watch me, in yeshiva, this is what we do. I put all the pots inside of the oven. I turned it on. I forgot about it for a few minutes. Came back. I took all of them out, and all the handles fell off. I had a graveyard of handles. And until today, my wife is in dire need of a new set of pots, because she literally has there's no lid to take, like the thing on top of the lid fell off, the handles fell off, and we have pots with lids but no handles, and so we have all kinds of creative ways. We have knives that we pop off the lids with and things like that. But if it was good on a practical level, so if you have like rubber handles or plastic handles, I'm not helping you much, but you can technically use your dishwasher to kosher the things that need water koshering, and you could use an oven to kosher the things that need dry heat. Your barbecue is probably the hardest thing to make kosher for Pesach if you use chametz on your barbecue. And you just have to clean it well. Clean it well and then turn on the barbecue and let it get as hot. It needs fire. You're not going to take a grill and put it in the oven. The oven is not as hot as your grill. And it always goes based on temperature. A higher temperature can kosher everything in a lower temperature.
If you're not going to use the barbecue,
That's right, after 24 hours. Right.
Still, yeah. And now, what about all your plates and your forks and your knives and your spoons? Where's my bowl? Things that are used, very good. Things that are used for dry heat, kosher, everything can be kosher with dry heat. Everything. Anything can be kosher with dry heat. The things that, what?
Even the chicken soup bowl?
Yes, very good, because dry heat is considered hotter than wet heat. The wet heat is anything that was used with, anything that was used for dry heat cannot be kosher with liquids. It needs dry heat for it. But the dry heat does not have to be a blowtorch.
And again, we're only doing this on a rabbinic level.
On a rabbinic level.
Because biblically everything's kosher.
Absolutely.
After 24 hours.
Yes. Now, watch my plates on my table. How hot is the food when it goes on my plate on the table? When you put the food in your plate and you're eating it, is it hot enough to burn your mouth?
Yes.
No, brother makes no.
Sometimes. And this is where Fuad's halakha comes in handy. Shulchan Aruch says, and this is again different in Sephardim and Ashkenazim, Shulchan Aruch said that every kli, every utensil goes achar rov tashmishon, after the majority of uses. If most of the time you use this utensil in not hot foods, then you don't even have to make it kosher at all. Because it's cold. And remember, cold things, they don't transfer any flavor. So I'll give you an example. My wife has, again, my blessed mother-in-law, bought us a dairy set when we got married. For whatever reason, I'm picky. I don't like the spoons and the bowls that come with that set. With my teeth, whatever. So I always go in the morning, as long as my mom is not there, who's looking and cries every time she sees me. I go to the Shabbat dishes, and I take out a chicken soup bowl. And I take the Shabbat dishes, and I take out a spoon that we use for the chicken soup. And I pour my cereal and my milk. And I sit there with the meat bowl and the meat spoon, eating my breakfast, just after I prayed to Hashem. And nothing happened. Because it's all cold. Because if you had a chametz bowl that you put cold things inside of, nothing would happen on Pesach, because flavor only transfers with heat. And therefore, if most of the time I use this cup for cold drinks, once I had something chametz inside of it that was hot, this doesn't even need to be, you didn't have to make this kosher at all. Because you go, achar rov tashmishon, most of the uses. Which means also that, how would I make it kosher? You clean it. You clean it. Cleaning it is the way you kosher it. Many utensils in your house don't even have to be made kosher.
Even plastic?
High quality plastic that doesn't smell after you use it.
But for, let's say it was only used for cold cereal.
Yes.
You use that plastic bowl for cereal.
Did you wash it afterwards? Yeah. Yeah, don't get scared. Yes. Where do you wash the bowl?
on the milk side or
Do I wash it in the meat side or the milk side?
Or the park side.
on the milk side?
I want to tell you this. In Poland, when people wash their dishes in the river, they had a meat river or a dairy river? There is no such thing as a meat sink or a dairy sink because you don't eat out of your sink. Why not? Come on. Which sponge? But which sponge? Which sponge I'm going to use? I'm going to tell you right now. Maran has a halakha in Shulchan Aruch. Whenever Shlomo takes out his phone, I know he's going to... I don't know where it's going to go now. You know, it's like tomorrow the Badas is going to put up flyers, most wanted men. Okay, so you have your sink. You eat from your sink?
No.
When something falls in your sink, you pick it up and eat it?
No.
People like to put these liners in their sinks for Pesach. Well, let's do this right now. Let's go through our kitchen. Let's start with the sink. The only thing the liner in your sink is good for is to have bacteria on it. There's nothing good about a liner in your sink. Your sink is what material? Stainless steel? Ceramic? All of it. You don't eat out of your sink. It touches your utensils. What kind of sponge do you use to, you were talking about my cereal bowl, right? Do I put in the meat sink or the dairy sink? You now know that I have 2 sinks in my house because the Jews who lived there before put 2 sinks inside of it. And they still have labels, meat and dairy. And when people come to my house and say, which side of the sink should we put it in? I don't remember which side says meat and which side says dairy. So I say, put it on the left side. I always get in trouble the next week when they come back and they say, which side should you put it in? At the right side. But last week you said the left side. I forgot. 1 sink. Why 1 sink and 1 sponge to wash your dishes? Why?
It's cold.
No, it's hot. Boiling hot water I'm putting in there.
Because you don't eat out of that.
Maran has a halakha and Shulchan Aruch. How do you wash your dishes in the olden days? You take a big pot of water from the river or well, you bring it to your house, you boil it, and then you wash your dishes inside of that water. It says Maran, you take a sir cholevet, a dairy pot, and dirty dairy pot, and you put all your dirty dairy pots and your dirty meat pots inside of the same boiling hot water, and you wash them with soap. And because there's soap in there, the soap makes the dairy not dairy and the meat not meat because it's not edible anymore because it has soap inside of it. And so long as you use soap when you wash your dishes, you could use whatever sponge you want and whatever sink you want and whatever bowl you want. Bakol, nikol, kol, everything is okay. And that should be a fact in every Jew's house. What about the dishwasher? I'm going to get to that in a second.
If someone sees us at our house doing something like that, they never come to our house.
You're right. What's your name, by the way? What's your name?
What's brother-in-law?
Oh, now it makes sense. Okay. You have a son who is a real tzaddik, you should know. Even if you don't think he's a tzaddik, I'm telling you he's a tzaddik. On me. Thank God I didn't make any mother-in-law jokes yet, because it was good. You know the difference between... I shouldn't say mother-in-law joke. What's the difference between in-laws and outlaws? The outlaws are wanted. Yeah. No, a guy was sitting in his house. It's a true story. Not a true story, actually. It's a lie. A guy was sitting in his house and someone knocks on his door. He opens the door. He sees his mother-in-law standing there with a big suitcase. And he looks at her. It's not Thanksgiving. It's not Hanukkah. What's she doing here? She says, oh, hi. How are you? She says, don't worry. I came here just to surprise you with a visit. I'm going to stay only for as long as you want me to stay. He says, wow, you're not even going to stay for a glass of tea. No, Baruch Hashem. So this question is a very important question. I answered this question in the last session we had, and that is, I cannot save a person from the evil people that are in the world. There are really bad people in the world. They don't know, not only do not know halachot, they discriminate against those who do know halachot, or do follow. Let's pretend that all of this is wrong. It's not, but let's pretend. But this is my halachic tradition. This is my rabbinic tradition. How dare you come and cast all kinds of things and doubts upon my tradition? Who are you? Who are you? Because I'm not afraid to tell you this. In a world of Sephardim, most of us, our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents were eating kosher. That is not the truth for many other Jewish communities. We are a community that has been unchanged keeping kosher. It's a halakha that we've done for centuries. There are other communities that a father, a grandfather, even a great-grandfather didn't eat kosher. It's nice that you woke up today and started keeping kosher. I want to give you a trophy. Really, I do. I feel very proud. But how dare you look at the way we keep kosher and tell me that it's not kosher? Where's the humility? Where's the kavod? You want to talk about Morocco? I remember when I was Moroccans don't have rabbis. Moroccans don't have rabbis. Moroccan Jewry is the largest Sephardic Jewish community in the world. In the world. Most chief rabbis of Israel, for example, are Iraqi. The Iraqi made some pretty tremendous Talmidei Chachamim. But do you know how many Jews left Iraq in 1948? How many Jews left Iraq? Don't know a number? Guess. 100,000. 100,000? No. Not more than 50,000 Jews were in Iraq ever. In Morocco, and I'm not even counting Algeria and Tunisia, the countries that kind of mush together in the same bundle, you're talking about over 500,000 Jews. Over 500,000 Jews. To say they didn't have rabbis? They have rabbis, the largest Sephardic community in the world. And the Chachamim. You can go today, and I'll tell you, if I went there right now, if we would take this wall, and we would make it only books of Chachamim Morocco, I'm not lying to you, I'm not exaggerating. Today I'm not exaggerating. It would cost you today over $20,000 to buy the library of all the published books of Chachamim Morocco, and they would not fit on that wall. How dare somebody come from a place where people didn't even know how to read and write, and to tell you that your tradition is not valid? Mechila. I was told I shouldn't bash anybody today. I'm not bashing. I'm simply saying it can't be. It can't be that we sit here cowering in fear. Be'ema v'fachad. Who wrote the Rambam? Who wrote the Shulchan Aruch? I'm going to tell you that it could be that if you want to find the most inspirational tefillah, you're not going to walk into some Turkish minyan and find it. You want to maybe go to some Hasidic minyan, they're dancing on their head, singing, it could be that the inspiration of it. But when it comes to the world of halakha, there's one group of Jews that literally dominated the field of halakha. This is all we dealt with. You don't have to sit here in 2018 in a community which has so many Sephardim and be afraid of somebody else. They made me markevot la'amin adiv. I became the chariots for some rich nation. Who are they to tell me?
He spoke like my father, Zichrono Livracha.
Baruch
Exactly
Baruch Hashem.
what he was saying.
And the truth is that she's right. Somebody once came to Rav Perez, a student of mine. I'm so mechilad at the time. His name is Rav Ari Zev Schwartz. He's a Talmid Chacham in Israel. He follows the rulings of Shulchan Aruch. And he asked Rav Perez, can I eat Kidneyot in my house on Pesach? I'm Ashkenazi. Rav Perez said, of course. What's the problem? He said, because I'm Ashkenazi. He said, of course. So what's the problem? He said, okay, so I can eat them? He said, sure. He said, fine. He got up to leave. He said, but don't eat Kidneyot on Pesach. So you just told me I can. But he said, because what's going to happen is your kids are going to go to school. And your wife is going to go to the synagogue that you go to. And they're going to lead an inquisition against your family. He said, they will crucify your children in school. Well, your last name is Schwartz and you're eating Kidneyot on Pesach. He said, what they'll do to you, you have to ask yourself, is it worth some cocoa pebbles on Pesach to be treated like that by the Jewish community? But to say such a thing and be proud about it, I'm not proud about that. That shouldn't be the situation in the Jewish community. And so you're right. I will never judge a person who says, there are people that are going to hurt me or be mad at me or offend me. So then this is why I do X, Y, and Z. But that's the way that a person lives in the Spanish Inquisition. That's the way we live under the rule of the Spaniards and the Portuguese and the Turks. That's not how you live in 2019 when I'm supposed to be a free person in Los Angeles. It's not how it's supposed to be. And if it is that way, then someone has to revisit the Jewish community in the way that it works. I saw a question somewhere. Yeah.
I want to go back to the point you made about 24 hours.
Yes.
Basically, dish 24 hours. So I can go on eBay and I can buy a set of antique dishes, and I have no idea what they cooked in it. And clearly it's been more than 24 hours. And I need to do nothing, just wash
you would
it,
rabbinically have to kosher them. So it depends what kind of utensils you're buying. To mess with the rabbis is not a small thing. China. That is sitting on a table that probably didn't even have really hot food in the first place.
I don't
know. It's on eBay. I don't know. It's used. I have no idea what's going on.
China that you're talking is a smooth China?
Yeah. Glazed or
Glazed China.
Glazed?
It's 12 months.
Is it smooth? Is it like a pottery from
No. Heron, China.
I'm asking you a question. Is it smooth?
Yes, it's smooth.
You're okay. Don't worry. You can sleep at night.
How can China not be smooth? I'm not even sure what's that.
You know, like pottery. Have you ever seen pottery that's like porous? It's rough.
No.
This is smooth. Yes, you're fine. You're okay. Okay.
By the way,
so talk to me about your utensils.
Even Ashkenazi will tell you, just leave it, unless you inherit from,
and Betty, who's going to keep
They say wait 12 months or 9 months.
That's right. That they will tell
dip it in hot water.
That you don't need to. Just 12 months and that's it. But that's what they tell you, the humrah, the strictness.
Did anyone find a Jewish book that spoke about 12 months before? 12, is that a shiur or anything? 12 months?
Shana.
9 months is how long it takes for a baby to be born.
Yeah.
12 months in the calendar year, but there's no halakha of 12 months. So let's talk about your utensils so we can finish. I have a list over here.
I want you to talk about the cooking. Can we cook before for the holiday if the kitchen is not ready yet?
Okay, so let me tell you how the kitchen is ready, and I'm going to answer your question. Just let me do it this way.
Because I never do that.
You never do.
And I stress out.
Okay. I don't have a list here. Okay. Starting in the kitchen, we start with a dishwasher. How is a dishwasher different from my sink? It has detergent in there.
The temperature is higher.
The temperature is higher, but there's still detergent in there?
Yes.
So long as you're using detergent in your dishwasher, you can put, Rabbi Buddies said, he rules that dirty milk dishes, dirty utensils, but if you don't want to trust me, so trust him. That's what I'm telling you. Inside the same dishwasher, and you can run a cycle.
You run the meat and milk together?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. And to make it kosher, what I would recommend is simply running an empty cycle of hot water. The only reason, there is a lot of gunk inside of your dishwasher, which is not a problem for Pesach, but if you want to feel that you cleaned your dishwasher, so run an empty cycle. And then afterwards, your dishwasher is kosher for Pesach. Don't listen to the people who tell you you can't make a dishwasher kosher for Pesach. What's the next thing? We spoke about a sink. How do you make a sink kosher for Pesach? You don't. That was a trick question. You don't. You just wash it. It's clean. Yeah. And your countertops, we already spoke about. How do you make your countertops kosher for Pesach? You just wipe it down like you would anything else that you make kosher. No need to pour hot water. The halakha of pouring hot water, like I mentioned, is mistakenly learned. It's misapplied for what Maran refers to as a table, but not for real. And especially if you're using a cleaning agent, bichlal you wouldn't need hot water. It's already all of it is noten tam nifgam. It's already a bad taste. Oven. Oh.
Wait, but the pine saw.
The what? Oh yeah, the soap should be kosher for Pesach, so you can add some of it to your chicken soup because that was a joke, wasn't it? Yeah.
What about the grates on a stove?
The grate on the stove top.
Stove top.
And
yeah.
the coil grates, you mean?
The grates, yeah. The ones that
Okay,
you put
so
the
let me
pot.
get to an oven right now. So let's start with the top of the oven. That's a stove. Okay. What's your name, by the way? I didn't ask you.
Mordechai.
Mordechai. I did ask you maybe. The stove top. If it's a glass stove top, what do you have to do? Just wipe it down like you would anything else. Hopefully your glass stovetop is clean. If it's another kind of stovetop, let's say like electric coils, you know, these, or gas, you know, what you have to do is wash these things very well. Yeah, you wash them. How much do you have to wash them? Probably until you feel comfortable selling it to somebody else. You want it to be clean. And then what do? You turn on the gas or the electricity. Give it about, if you want to be very machmir, like super strict, 15 minutes. It burned off everything in the stove. Turn it off. Your stovetop is good for Pesach. If you put aluminum foil around them, you're actually violating a biblical prohibition of putting your family's life in danger. Every year there are people who die because of gas when the gas comes out of those pipes and those tubes, chaz v'shalom, there are all kinds of problems that can happen from interfering with the way the gas is supposed to work. And it's a dangerous thing. Why would a person put their family's life in danger? Yeah. If I'm talking about cleaning agents, there's a cleaning agent that goes around what's it called? St. Moritz. Every year there are boys and girls in New York that are rushed to the emergency room because the skin on their hand burned off, or their face. This is the strongest kind of cleaning agent. It's extremely dangerous, and people think that's what I have to use to clean my house for Pesach. It should be forbidden. It should be a forbidden thing to bring this into your house. It can hurt, mamash, burn people's organ. I can't explain it in a nicer way. You shouldn't be dealing with such things inside of your house on Pesach. It's not a mitzvah. It's a dangerous thing, really dangerous thing. And now we're talking about the oven itself. Can an oven ever become not kosher? No. Siman Kufchet, in Yoreh chapter 108, Maran writes on Halakha Aleph Bet, and also Gimel if you want to look there. Maran talks about an oven. If I take, listen to me very carefully, my oven, correct? And I, on the rack of my oven, I'll make it nicer for you because I don't want anyone to have a heart attack. I take a pan, okay? And I throw a piece of chazir, a pig, inside of this pan. And then I take my kosher steak from, what's a kosher store here? Western Kosher. Am I making free advertisement? And you take it, just don't buy the soap there. It's $25 for Pesach, okay? You want to buy the steak. You take the steak and you put it in the other pan. And you put them together in the oven, not covered. All of it is kosher. Not the pig. The pig is not kosher. But your meat is kosher. Maran rules it's a simple halakha like that. So long as your oven is bigger than a microwave oven, like a little, everything that goes in there is kosher. Your oven doesn't become not kosher. Though because of Chumrat Pesach, this Pesach is still a strict thing, the Chachamim have suggested that you wipe down your whole oven inside and you run it on a cycle of the highest it would cook. It doesn't have to be a self-cleaning oven. Just, let's say the highest is 500. Run it at 500 for how long? I tell people half an hour. The other people say an hour. Really, after a few minutes, but let's say half an hour. Yeah.
When you clean inside the oven, can you just clean it with regular soap? You have to have special detergent?
No, you can just clean it the way you would regularly clean the oven. Correct. And the same would go for the racks. You put the racks inside and Shalom Yisrael.
What about, I'm sorry, on the top of the stove, like a lot of them have like a separate...
Where you lift it.
Lifting, you have crumbs inside. You have to worry about the crazy with those crumbs?
Halachically, do you have to worry with them? No, but I'm sure that there's no one here who would let those crumbs stay there for Pesach, so just clean your oven. That's
you don't have to go crazy, you can just clean
You don't have to go crazy, correct, yes. Wait, do we hear this question? What? The racks stay inside, they get cleaned, and you just burn them out. What about a plata? You know what a plata is? Are you talking about the electric one?
Yes.
Okay, like the one you get from Israel, you plug it in?
Yes. Yes.
How is it different than a stove?
Because who gets stuck on it?
Let me ask you a question.
Is it a warmer or is it
If I have 2 pots, yeah, 2 pots. One has inside of it pig. Another one has inside of it chicken, soup, yeah? And I cook them together like this, touching each other. They're covered, touching each other. What is the status of the chicken soup? No, but maybe the flavor went to the wall of the pot and then went to this pot and they came out this here. Remember I told you about imagination? It's imagination. You're allowed, if there was chametz on top of the fire and you put your pot on top of it, it would still be kasher what's inside of your pot.
Just to clean.
Just to clean. Mamash, that's the answer. Now what about a microwave? So plata, same thing. Microwave or a microwave oven? Tell me what you're talking about. So let's start with a toaster oven, okay? A toaster oven is the miniature oven.
Yes.
And really it's a good question to figure out the shi'ur of that because Maran in Kufchet, he talks about how many eggs it can hold. For my experiment, it's still big enough to be machshir. It also has vents, which makes it not a real oven according to halakha. Anything with vents is not a real oven. Whatever Maran writes about an oven, it's talking about like a sealed, what do they call it? The barbacoa, in the ground, you seal a clay oven, it's all cooking in there. But a real oven that has vents, it's not considered sealed, so it's not a problem. But a microwave oven, you clean it out and you turn it on like you would a regular oven. A microwave is not an oven at all. In fact, a microwave is not even real cooking according to halakha, and this can take you to the laws of Shabbat, which I'm not going to do for you right now. When you heat up something for 8 minutes inside of a microwave, and then you take it out of the microwave, can you touch the wall of the microwave with your hand?
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't burn you? Nobody ever tried this. If it doesn't get hot, it's not something that needs to be kashered at all. In fact, the only reason you would make a microwave, you would have to wipe it down, so there's no chametz in there. The only reason, if you wanted to worry about the Ashkenazi opinion that steam could be chametz, so all you have to do is make some steam. You could take a cup, you could put it in the microwave, make some steam, and then your microwave is kasher. There's nothing else you have to do. The same thing with your microwave can be used for meat and milk. As long as it's clean, you just use the same thing for meat and milk. What else can I tell you?
Do you have to wait 24 hours?
No, you don't. Very good. You don't have to wait 24 hours. A crock pot. Wow. What do you make in a crock pot on Pesach?
The fina, cholan.
Okay, cholan with beans.
We make it for the
No, without hummus.
No hummus though inside of it, right? Okay. So.
No, with beans.
Which Moroccan makes the fina in the crock pot? No Moroccan makes the fina in the crock pot.
Woo.
Yeah, you're right.
No self-respecting Moroccan.
I was making madbucha with diced tomatoes, and my mother says, if my mother would see you using diced tomatoes, what she would do to you. Okay, let's tell you like this. The truth is that publicly, I've been asked by Rav Peretz to pretend that ceramic is the same thing as ceramic is everywhere else. From my answer, you should learn my answer, okay? Publicly, you should treat ceramic like people traditionally treated ceramic. Publicly, that is my answer. Can I leave you with that answer?
Yes.
Okay. What else is inside my kitchen?
What is a ceramic? What did you say? I didn't hear.
But you just said yes. I asked you if you understand. You said yes. The answer is that everybody else will tell you you can't use it, and that's what I should tell you publicly. You use a cookie bag? Yes, I eat cookie. So anyways, your pot probably never tasted from the chamin in the first place. What other appliances are left in your kitchen?
This is probably a dumb question.
Nothing's a dumb question.
All right. What about like like when you have the cover for the challah, you probably can't use the same one for the matzah.
Why? It's cold. What's wrong?
You could?
What's the halakha? If you take, let's say I have matzah, and I find out the only matzah that I have one matzah that I was always able to afford. Matzah is stuck to challah. And I come to my seder, there's literally a piece of challah stuck to my matzah. What do? You pull it off, you make sure there's no more crumbs over there, and you say, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz mitzvat mitzvah, and you eat this matzah. Oh, and that's what I wanted to end with tonight, Kevin. Can I just, this is my last thing I want to say, but did I finish your kitchen? Is there anything left in your kitchen? Rabbi Moshe, anything left in the kitchen I didn't talk about? Okay, so I finished with the kitchen. My last thing for tonight, and with this we'll end.
What happens if you find chametz in the middle of Pesach?
The Mishnah says, what happens if on Pesach? No. What happens if the eve of Pesach, the Mishnah says?
Give it to your dog.
You find in your bag chametz, you find rolls of bread and matzah that are mixed together. And you don't know which ones are the matzah and which ones are the chametz. What do? It's a famous Mishnah. Your bread and your matzah get mixed together. You don't know how to tell them apart. So what do?
Pesach?
Yeah.
Why could you not tell them apart? The matzah is thin and
Anyone ever thought about this? I have my 6 braided challah sitting with my 6-year-old Shumura matzah they're selling to me for $40 a pound. Yeah, they're sitting together inside of a bag. How would I not know the difference between the two of them? Right? How thick can a matzah be for it to still be kosher? A tefach. What is a tefach? Your fist without the thumb is about 8 centimeters if you want to measure it like that. That's how thick your matzah is allowed to be for Pesach. The minhag is we don't bake matzah that thick. That's a custom. But halakha, you can. How many minutes does it take for a matzah to become chametz? You mix the water with the dough. How many minutes does it take? 18 minutes unless you're kneading the dough. So long as you're working the dough, says Maran, Kol Hayom Kulo, you could sit there kneading the dough the whole day. It never becomes chametz. It never becomes chametz. What do you think? All the Yemenite village, imagine. We have people in my community, they go every year to Israel to bake matzot. They have one little matzah oven, and every family makes their own matzah dough. How long do you think that line is to get to the matzah oven? It's long. It takes an hour. They're waiting. So what do? They just sit there like this. Maybe they got a lot of muscles for that. And they make it to the oven, and all those matzot are kasher Pesach. If I would tell you what happens in the matzah industry today, you would cry. The reason matzot are expensive, aside from the fact that they can, do that after 11 or 12 minutes, they throw away all the matzot that are there. They stop. They don't do it. There's no such thing as 18-minute matzot anymore. I was once at a matzah factory. At about 11 minutes, I was once in a place, 10 minutes. They cut the clock. All the dough, everything, straight to the garbage. Hello, Peretz, in his younger days, he used to go to the garbage of the matzah factories, and that's where he would get his matzot. All the ones they threw away, he would check, and he would take them. Yeah, what can you do? You can't afford to buy what the people are selling. It's an unbelievable thing that happens in the matzah world. And not here talking about machines, but we talk about our matzot. I started about Sephardim and perspectives. We talk about Hillel. Hillel would make a Hillel sandwich. That's what they translate in the Maxwell House Haggadah. But that's not true. There's no such thing as a Hillel sandwich. I mean, a lot of people ate sandwiches in history. We don't name them after the people who made sandwiches. Rather, what is korech? What does it mean? It doesn't mean Hillel sandwich. What? What does that word mean, korech? To roll. You know when you order your falafel and the lafan, they roll it for you? That is called korech, lichoch, to roll. When you take a matzah, Hillel would put a little bit of maror in a matzah, and he would roll his maror inside a matzah, and he would eat it. To fulfill what it said, that you should eat your matzah morim, you should eat them together. Today what you do, you take this crunchy cracker, which by the way, could not even be a hamotzi if you had look at the Shulchan Aruch properly. Yeah? And then you take this cracker, which is burnt and has holes and all kinds of things that they did to this bread. And you can't even get a shalem. You know, a whole year people are particular, they should have a challah, shouldn't be missing a crumb because it has to be a complete challah. Today you don't, all the matzah is crumbs. And you take this matzah, you crack it in half, you put some things inside, you eat it, you bite it, you wonder why on earth was Hillel eating this sandwich? Like, what was wrong with the guy? And the truth is that's because that's not what a matzah looks like. Rikikin dakin, Shulchan Aruch says, thin crackers are not even a hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Rather, matzah is what you would see, imagine a lafa, you know lafa? Lavash bread, tortillas, wheat tortillas. That is what matzah looked like, always. Biblically, every time you offer a sacrifice, you have to roll it up inside of matzah. How are you rolling it inside of your Manischewitz square machine matzah?
No.
I saw in Iran, a video from Iran, of a matzah factory that makes long rectangle matzot that are soft. And the halacha is the matzot were always soft. Always they were soft. And only in Ashkenaz, where they wrote that they don't know how to make soft matzahs that are not chametz. And because of that, they said they stopped. They didn't know. They didn't have. In anachnu biki'in. We are not, says the Rama, we're not experts in this. But my grandmother, every morning of Pesach, woke up and baked matzot. With her own hands, no special factory, no special. And they were all soft. And I ask you as a Sephardic community, why have we given up a tradition that is the last remnant of a biblical matzah? The last remnant of matzah that they actually ate in the Beit HaMikdash for some kind of machine-made cracker. It's like a big saltine. It doesn't even have salt inside of it. that we're using for Pesach that maybe our rabbis don't even let us make a hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
There is a bakery in New York, Syrian
But do you know how much they charge?
From Eretz Israel today.
I checked in this year to buy a matzot just for the seder, the 3 matzot, $60 they're asking for it. Plus shipping is also another $60
I'll
to get
send
it
you
here.
from Israel. I'll send you from Mahfouz.
Actually, Shuva Israel has three this size for $20.
Really?
Shuva Israel.
So I'm going to tell the truth.
You can order it.
And Bazani Siyamti, guys, I'm done. The truth is that the matzot that come.
You have to tell them about the Shaar, how much to eat.
Oh.
Mitzvah. Hello. There is a mitzvah to eat matzah on the night of
the matzot that come from Israel, in our opinion and also our Ped's opinion, are a little too thick. We would like them a little bit thinner than they come. Soft but thin. And therefore in my community this year, B'ezras Hashem, we'll be baking matzot for Pesach. And we are going to be doing it with shmura matzah flour so that the Kanaim could come and lo pogim banu. And we're going to be making them the exact way that, Baruch Hashem, if you don't know Mario, his sister owns a tortilla store in Madera, California, Maya Ashgacha. And we're going to be making tortillas, wheat tortillas, that are matzot that are kosher for Pesach, B'ezras Hashem. We're asking, and it's the first year that we're doing it, we're asking that people are buying into the operation, that we're flying the flour, that we're building an oven and all the things that we're doing, and people are, and they're going to get matzot for the seder, and everything else we're going to split up between everybody who was involved. If you want to be part of that, you're welcome to go talk to my wife. She's taking care of that operation, and we'll be doing that in San Diego the week before Pesach. About eating matzah on Pesach, it's the last thing you asked me. Are you giving me your credit card?
No, but I'm saying
so
how much of a matzah should you eat in order to fulfill the mitzvah? You have like 4 shiurim. You have a motzi lechem min haaretz, al achilat matzah, korech, and then...
We're supposed to eat 2 olives.
What?
2 olives.
2 olives. So
how much are 2 olives?
1 olive. This is 1 olive. This is a piece of matzah. Not half a matzah.
That's enough then.
That's enough.
Where's the papers I gave you? Wait, look.
My father.
2 of these or 1 of these?
Huh? That's one piece.
2 of these. 1 serving.
Halapel says this one is for sure the shiur for 2.
For 2. That's it. That's for 2. So that means this is 1 shiur.
But this is how much you would have.
1 kazai.
So you need 2 kazai.
2 kazai, that's right. A motzi and a achilat matzah.
This
that's
is
it.
Like
not
a
to go
Ashkenazi
crazy
chart that he pointed out which one you would eat. What? Chazonish. But don't eat matzot like him or you'll never be able to walk on Pesach. I want to end off tonight. I just want to say thank you very, very much. It's Kul Mitzvot. I want to thank everyone for coming. Please, before you go, do me a favor. I don't ask for donations. I'm not going to spam you. I just want your information to let you know that I'll be coming into LA more frequently. And the email list is, who has it? He has it right there. If you could please just put your name and your email before you go, just so I can stay in touch with you. If you have any questions, I'm going to be right here to take any questions you have. I also want to just make 2 announcements. Those books are for sale. They're normally $25, but they're $20 a piece. If you like, just give them to Angel. You're welcome to come. I can sign on them if you want. Please make sure you go with a book. If money is an issue, it's not an issue. Just talk to my wife and she'll take care of you. The second thing I wish to tell you, if you go to Facebook and put in Pesach Kashrut Forum with Rabbi Yonatan Halevy, or just put in my name, we have a WhatsApp group. I answer a Facebook group. If you go to a store and you want to know if something's kasher to Pesach, all you do is you take a picture of the front, the back, you write what it is, and about within 30 minutes I hope to get back to you if it's good for Pesach, for Ashkenazi, for Sephardim. It's a free service that I provide to the Jewish community. And this year we have a lot of people from Los Angeles, so just go Rabbi Yonatan Halevy on Facebook and just click in the front, click in the back, and I'll be answering your questions personally.
Is your book translated in French?
It's in English, not in French. But if you want to translate into French, I'd be more than happy to talk to you.
Can you put this video tomorrow so we can share it with our friends?
Mario has a real job in real life, and so as soon as he can get the video up, we'll let you know.
Between Pesach and Hanukkah.
Cheva, really thank you so much for learning with me. I appreciate it. I know the hour is late. It's Kul Mitzvot. Laila Tov. Have a good night. And again, thank you to Rabbi Moshe for his hospitality.